And now as you find a comfortable stillness, you can allow each word I say to be like a soft stepping stone leading you gently into tonight's story, a story that begins inside a gilded cage. You can give yourself permission now, permission to relax completely, permission to let go. And as you let go, you can just float along with the easy current of this story. Before we drift too far, if you feel a connection to this place, you're welcome to leave a quiet like or subscribe. Think of it not as a task, but as leaving a soft footprint in the sand before you continue your journey inward. It's also a quiet joy for me to know where these stories land. So if you feel inclined, you could let me know in the comments what city or part of the world you're listening from, and what time it is for you there. There's something quite magical about knowing we're all connected in this quiet moment, across all the time zones of the night. Alright, let the shadows in your room grow long and soft. Maybe you can hear the faint sound of your own breathing. And together, let's allow the story to begin. The first thing you are aware of is the scent. It's a complex perfume that has been the backdrop to your entire existence. There is the dry, grassy smell of the tatami mats beneath you, the sweet and smoky whisper of incense from a burner in the corner, and carried on the breeze through the open shoji screen, the delicate, almost heartbreaking fragrance of cherry blossoms from the courtyard garden. This is the scent of your world. It is the smell of peace, of order, of immense and suffocating privilege. You are sitting, perfectly still, on a silk cushion. The floorboards of this vast, empty room are polished to a mirror shine, reflecting the soft grey light of the morning. To call this building a house would be an understatement. It is a fortress, a palace, a sprawling compound of interconnected rooms, corridors, and gardens, all enclosed by a formidable stone wall. This is your home, and your cage. Your kimono is a work of art, layers of heavy silk in shades of cream and rose, embroidered with cranes and mid-flight. It is beautiful, and it restricts your every movement, a constant reminder of the grace and composure expected of you. You are the daughter of the clan lord, a position that sounds far more glamorous than it feels. In reality, it means your life is a carefully choreographed performance. You walk along the polished wooden hallways, the famous nightingale floors designed to chirp and sing at the slightest pressure, announcing your presence to everyone. There are no secrets here, no unobstructed moments. Your education is a study in contradictions. In the morning, you learn the art of calligraphy, the brush or weightless extension of your fingers as you paint characters onto delicate rice paper. A single misplaced drop of ink, a moment of hesitation, and the entire work is ruined. It teaches you precision, patience, and the acceptance of impermanence. You learn flower arranging, ikebana, finding the silent, stark beauty in a single, bent branch and a few carefully chosen blossoms. You learn the tea ceremony, a meditation in motion where every gesture, from wiping the bowl to whisking the green powder, is imbued with centuries of meaning. These are the arts of peace, the skills of a high-born lady designed to create a bubble of tranquility and refinement. But this bubble is made of steel, because in the afternoon, you trade the silken ink for a simple cotton GI. You step into the dojo. The air here different, smelling of sweat and oiled wood. And you pick up your other tool. It is not a brush. It is a naginata, a polerin taller than you are, with a long, curved blade at its end that gleams with a cold, hungry light. Your hands, which just hours ago held a delicate porcelain tea bowl, now grip the hard oak of the shaft. The weapon is heavy, an anchor connecting you to a much harsher reality. This, too, is part of your education as a woman of the samurai class, the Beiyukai, while your brothers train with the sword, the iconic kosono. You master the naginata. It is the traditional weapon for women of your station, its length providing reach, allowing you to defend the household from a distance, to sweep enemies from their feet, to guard the gates against any who would harm your family. This is your sacred duty. They tell you to be the immovable heart of the household, a fortress of grace and order, but you must also be its final, deadly guardian. There are other, stranger rituals that define your cage. In a small lacquered box is a foul-smelling mixture of iron filings dissolved in vinegar. Several times a week, you use this to paint your teeth, a practice known as Onna-Bugeisha. The deep black stain is considered a mark of supreme beauty and civilization, a sign that you have left behind the animalistic white flash of teeth. To you, it just tastes soulful. Another rule, another layer of artifice applied directly to your body. And this is where the scholars, centuries from now, will argue in their quiet, dusty libraries. They'll debate just how common it was for a woman like you to see a true battlefield. Some will point to epic tales of warrior empresses and fierce heroines, claiming women fought alongside men as a matter of course. Others will argue that your training was purely for the last, desperate defense of these very walls. A final line that should, ideally, never be crossed. Historians still debate the true role of the Onna-Bugeisha. The female warrior, was she an exception? A legend? Or a quiet, unsung reality of feudal life? The truth, for you, is that it doesn't matter what they will say. The steel of the naginata feels just as cold in your hands, the training just as grueling, the expectation just as heavy, as the sun begins to set, casting long, deep shadows across the garden. Use it once more in quiet contemplation. The scent of cherry blossoms is still on the air, but today, you think you can smell something else beneath it, something metallic and distant, the scent of a coming storm. The morning sun has not yet burned away the mist that clings to the moss in the garden. Today begins not with ink, but with mortar. You kneel in the small, separate building that is the tea house, its architecture a masterpiece of rustic simplicity. Here, there are no polished floors or gilded screens. The walls are rough clay. The ceiling is woven bamboo, and the only light comes from a single window covered in translucent paper, casting everything in a soft, uniform glow. The air is still and cool. This is a place designed to quiet the mind, to strip away the distractions of the outside world. Your teacher, an ancient woman whose face is a roadmap of wrinkles, watches you with eyes that seem to miss nothing. You perform the ritual, each movement an echo of 1,000 times before. You purify the instruments with a folded silk cloth, your motions economical and precise. You draw hot water from the iron kettle with a bamboo ladle, the sound of the water pouring into the ceramic bowl the only noise in the room. There is a deep, meditative rhythm to this, the whisking of the powdered green tea, or matcha, into a frothy jade liquid, the respectful bow as you present the bowl, the quiet moment as your teacher drinks. The philosophy of this ceremony, the way of tea, is built on four principles: harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. It is meant to be a moment of pure presence, a small island of peace in the chaotic flow of life. Yet, as you perform the familiar steps, a part of your mind remains detached. You are aware of the performance, of the perfection required. And this is a question that fascinates historians. How much of this deep Zen philosophy was truly internalized by the warrior class, and how much of it was simply a highly sophisticated performance of social status and education? Were you truly finding a moment of tranquil enlightenment, or were you just flawlessly executing the most complicated etiquette lesson ever devised? For you, the answer is a little of both. There is a calm in the ritual, a comfort in its predictability, but there is also the constant, quiet pressure of perfection. When the ceremony concludes, you bow deeply and leave the tea house, stepping back into the main compound. The contrast is immediate. You exchange the formal, restrictive kimono for a simple, loose-fitting uniform. You bind your hair back tightly. You walk to the dojo, and the world changes completely. The scent of damp moss and tea is replaced by the sharp smell of sweat and the faint, oily perfume of polished steel. The serene quiet is gone, replaced by the sharp exhalation of breath, the rhythmic thud of wooden weapons striking each other, and the sharp commands of the instructor. You take your place on the polished wooden floor, Your naginata rests in a rack against the wall, and you retrieve it. The moment your hands close around the familiar oak shaft, something inside you shifts. The placid, composed student of the tea ceremony recedes, and the warrior comes forward. Your posture changes, your shoulders settle. Your center of gravity lowers. Your gaze, which was soft and deferential in the tea house, becomes sharp, focused, measuring the distance to your opponent. Your training partner today is a young man, a cousin. Strong and fast with his practiced sword made of bamboo. He is arrogant, confident in his strength, but you have the advantage of reach. The naginata is a weapon of circles and sweeping arcs. It is not about brute force. It is about leverage, momentum, and control. You begin a kata, a prearranged sequence of movements. It is a dance, but every step is a strike, a parry, a block. You spin, the long blade of your weapon whistling through the air, forcing your opponent to retreat. You use the butt end of the shaft to jab at his ribs, then reverse the motion into a sweeping cut aimed at his ankles. It is a brutal, beautiful, and exhausting art. Your muscles burn, your lungs ache, and the skin of your hands, toughened by calluses, still threatens to blister. Tucked into the sash of your uniform is another, much smaller weapon. It is a small dagger, the Taiakian. Every woman of your class carries one. It is for self-defense at close quarters, a weapon of last resort if an enemy gets past the formidable reach of your naginata. But it has another, darker purpose, a purpose that is never spoken of but always understood. If your home were to fall, if you were to face the dishonor of capture, this small blade is your final duty. It is not for seppuku, the ritual dissimosant or practiced by the men. Your duty is a swift, clean cut to the throat, a practice called jigai. It is a small, cold piece of certainty you carry with you always, a reminder that your honor is more valuable than your life. It's a chillingly practical piece of equipment that many romanticized accounts of samurai life tend to gloss over. After hours of training, when you are drenched in sweat and your arms tremble with fatigue, the session ends. You bow to your instructor, to your partner. You carefully wipe down your naginata and return it to the rack, and you walk back to your chambers. Later, as you sit once more in your elegant rooms, a servant helps you dress in another immaculate silk kimono. She carefully arranges your hair, placing a single, beautiful ornament in it. You look at your hands. The palms are rough and calloused from the weapon's shaft. The fingers, however, are long and elegant, trained to whisk tea and arrange flowers. They are the hands of an artist and the hands of a killer, belonging to the same person. You are a living contradiction. I steal peerly, and as you sit there, in the fragile quiet of the evening, you wonder which part of you will be needed most in the days to come. The peace of the evening is a thin veneer. It is something you have started to notice in the small details, the subtle shifts in the atmosphere of the compound. The guards on the walls seem to walk their patrols with a little less conversation, their eyes scanning the horizon a little more intently. The servants move through the hallways with a hurried, silent efficiency, their eyes downcast, as if they are afraid of being asked a question they cannot answer. The home fortress, your home, seems to be holding its breath. Tonight, you are supposed to be practicing your calligraphy. The implements are laid out before you on a low lacquered table, a heavy inkstone, a solid stick of black ink, a small bowl for water, and a selection of brushes with handles of smooth bamboo. The rice paper is thin and pristine, but your mind is not on the elegant sway of the brush. It is on the room next door. The wall between your room and your father's private study is made of shoji screens. These are frames of wood with translucent paper stretched across them, designed to let in light and allow for the flexible division of space. They are beautiful and elegant. They are also terrible for privacy. You can't see through them, but every sound, every whisper, seeps through the thin paper membrane like smoke. And for the past several nights, the sounds from your father's study have been low, urgent, and tinged with something you recognize as barely suppressed anger. You sat, pretending to grind the ink stick on the wet stone, the circular motion of familiar, meditative act, but your ears are strained, catching fragments of the conversation from the other side of the screen. It is your father, the daimyo, the great lord of this clan. His voice is a low rumble, a sound you have associated with safety and authority your entire life. But tonight, it is frayed at the edges. With him are two other men, his most trusted advisors, their voices equally hushed. An insult that cannot be ignored. Your father says, his voice a blade of cold fury. You hear the soft rustle of silk as one of the advisors shifts his weight. My lord, a second voice, older and more cautious, replies. To rise to his bait is to walk into his trap. Lord Endo is known for his provocations. He tests our borders, diverts our water upstream, hoping we will be the ones to break the peace. Lord Endo, the name hangs in the air between the paper walls. He is your neighbor to the east, a powerful, ambitious man whose clan has been a rival to yours for generations. There have been decades of peace, a fragile truce maintained through carefully arranged marriages and political maneuvering. But the old tensions, it seems, have never truly gone away. They were just sleeping. His samurai rest passed on our rice paddies. Your father's voice is louder now. They claimed it was a mapping error. A mapping error. For 3 generations. That river has been the border. He mocks us. He mocks me. You pause your ink grinding, holding your breath. You can almost picture the scene in the next room. The 3 men kneeling around a low table. A mat unrolled between them. The flickering light of an oil lamp casting long, dancing shadows on their stern faces. This is the world of men. The world of politics, of strategy, of provocations and honor. It is a world you are deliberately excluded from. Yet here you are, an accidental eavesdropper on the fate of your entire clan. One of the more peculiar and debated aspects of household architecture from this period is just how much intentional eavesdropping was built into the system. While the nightingale floors were for security against assassins, some historians suggest the thinness of the shoji walls served a social purpose, creating a culture where secrets were difficult to keep and everyone was, to some degree, aware of the household's emotional temperature. It was a form of enforced community, a transparency that could be both a comfort and a curse. His harvest was poor this year. The cautious advisor continues. Ours was strong. He is desperate. A desperate man is a dangerous animal. My lord, he does not seek a battle. He seeks a pretext for a raid, for plunder. And we will give him a battle. Your father declares. The finality in his tone sends a chill down your spine. Send a messenger. We demand a formal apology and compensation for the trespass. If he refuses, we will answer in the only language men like Endo understand. Silence. You can hear the faint crackle of the oil lamp. Then, the soft sound of silk on tatami as the men bow and take their leave. You wait, listening to the silence from your father's room. It feels heavier now, more profound. He is alone with his decision, a decision that will ripple outwards from that small, lamplit room and change the course of every life within these walls, including yours. You dip your brush into the freshly ground ink. It is dull, rich, and velvety. You press the tip to the paper, intending to draw the character for tranquility, but your hand hesitates. The whispers have poisoned the quiet. The peace you have known your whole life feels thin now. As fragile and translucent as the paper screen beside you, you look at the dark ink pooling on the brush tip. It looks like a drop of night, ready to fall and stain the clean white world forever. And you realize, with a sudden, cold certainty, that the dance of the tea ceremony is over. The dance of steel is about to begin. Before the storm breaks, there is an eerie, deceptive calm. A week passes after the hushed meeting in your father's study. The messenger was sent, but no reply has come from Lord Endo. The days return to their familiar rhythm, a meticulous routine of lessons and training that feels almost normal. Almost. But the tension is a low hum beneath the surface of everything. A string pulled taut, vibrating with a frequency only you seem to feel. Then comes the announcement. The annual Blossom Festival will proceed as planned. It feels like a statement, a deliberate act of defiance. Your father is projecting an image of strength and stability, refusing to let the provocations of a rival disrupt the sacred traditions of the clan. To the common people in the castle town below, it is a sign that all is well. To you, it feels like a farewell, a final, perfect performance of a piece that is already dead. On the morning of the festival, the entire compound is a flurry of activity. Servants rush back and forth with lacquered boxes of food and flasks of sake. You are dressed in your most magnificent kimono, a garment of sky blue silk so intricately embroidered with cherry blossoms that it looks as if a tree has shed its petals directly onto the fabric. Your face is powdered a pristine white, a canvas for the delicate red and black lines that accentuate your lips and eyes. Your blackened teeth are a stark, fashionable contrast. When you look in the polished bronze mirror, you see a perfect, doll-like creature, an icon of aristocratic beauty. You barely recognize the warrior who sweats and strains in the dojo. You walk with your mother and the other women of the household in a slow, graceful procession to the main courtyard. The men are already there. Your father and brothers dressed in formal robes. Their two swords, the long katana and the shorter wakishi, is thrust through their belts. The entire clan leadership is assembled. The air is thick with the sweet scent of the cherry trees, which have exploded into a riot of pale pink and white blossoms. Paper lanterns hang from the branches, swaying gently in the breeze. The festival is a celebration of Mono no Aware, a uniquely Japanese concept. It is a gentle, wistful sadness for the transience of things, the awareness that beauty is precious precisely because it is fleeting. The cherry blossoms, in their breathtaking but brief existence, are the ultimate symbol of this. They bloom, reach a peak of perfection, and then, in a matter of days, they fall. And everyone knows it is a perfect metaphor for the life of a warrior. A short, glorious life that can end at any moment. Today, that philosophical idea feels crushingly literal. You take your seat on a silk cushion. The afternoon is a beautiful, slow-motion dream. Musicians play hypnotic melodies on the flute and the koto. Dancers with fans move in stylized, flowing patterns. Sake is poured into tiny ceramic cups, and a feast of exquisitely prepared dishes is served on small, individual tables. You eat delicate slices of raw fish, glistening rice cakes, and vegetables carved into the shapes of flowers. One of the more surprising dishes, a delicacy reserved for such occasions, is a type of preserved jellyfish. Its texture is a strange combination of crunchy and gelatinous, and it is a taste that many outside your culture would find bizarre. But here, it is a symbol of luxury, another small, edible testament to your clan's status and wealth. You watch your father. He laughs and drinks with his advisors, his performance of carefree lordship flawless. But you see the way his eyes occasionally drift to the ramparts of the castle walls, the way his hand rests for just a moment too long on the hilt of his katana. He is a man savoring his last meal. You look at your younger brother, who is barely a man, his face still holding the softness of youth. He is laughing at a joke, his head thrown back, a rice cake in his hand. You feel a sudden, sharp pang of love and fear for him. You look at your mother, her face a serene, painted mask, but her hands are clasped tightly in her lap. She knows, too, everyone is playing their part in this beautiful, heartbreaking masquerade. As dusk begins to fall, the paper lanterns are lit, casting a warm, magical glow over the courtyard. The petals from the cherry trees have begun to fall, a gentle, silent snow of pink and white, dusting the shoulders of your family, settling on the grass, floating in the cups of sake. You reach out and catch a single petal in your palm. It is impossibly soft, impossibly fragile. Historians often debate the true emotional state of people in such a rigidly codified society. Did the constant emphasis on stoicism and the performance of composure mean that people like you didn't feel fear or sadness in the same way we do? Or was it simply that you were conditioned from birth to conceal it behind an unreachable wall of etiquette? Looking at the faces around you, bathed in the soft lantern light, you know the answer. The fear is there. It is in every forced smile, every too loud laugh, every lingering glance. You are all standing in a perfect, beautiful garden, acutely aware of the sound of an axe sharpening just beyond the wall. You close your hand around the single cherry blossom petal. When you open it again, it is just a small, bruised smudge of pink on your palm. A beautiful thing, utterly destroyed by the slightest pressure. The musicians play on, but the song sounds different now. It sounds like a lament. This is the last perfect day, and you will remember every scent, every sound, every falling petal of it for the rest of your life. The morning after the festival, the delicate, dream-like atmosphere evaporates like dew in the sun. The fallen cherry blossoms are swept away by servants, and the quiet, purposeful preparations for war begin. But your battlefield is not yet the one of stone walls and steel blades. Your conflict is one of silk, of subtle glances, and of unspoken rules as rigid and unforgiving as any fortress wall. This is the intricate armor of your social world, and navigating it is a martial art in itself. Your mother summons you to her private chambers. These rooms are the heart of the female domain within the compound. The air here is thick with the scent of perfumes, cosmetics, and the faint, clean smell of silk being aired. Scrolls depicting scenes of courtly life hang on the walls, and exquisite multi-layered kimonos are displayed on standing racks like pieces of art. It is a world of immense beauty and suffocating detail. You kneel before your mother. Her face, like yours, is a perfect white mouse, her expression unreadable. She does not speak of the looming threat from Lord Endo. To do so would be a breach of decorum, an admission of fear. Instead, she speaks of duty. Your composure is a reflection on our entire clan, she says, her voice soft but firm as steel. In the coming days, you will be a model of tranquility. The servants and the lesser ladies will look to you. If they see fear in your eyes, it will spread like a plague. You must be serene. You must be a rock. This is the core of your role. You are not just a person. You are a symbol. Your every action is scrutinized for its symbolic meaning. The way you walk, the way you sit, the angle of your bow, it all communicates a message of the clan's stability and refinement. It is a constant, exhausting performance. Today's lesson is not with the naginata, but with a fan. Your mother produces the folding fans, intricate works of art with painted silk leaves and lacquered sticks. She hands one to you. The fan is not merely for creating a breeze. In the hands of a courtly lady, it is a complex signaling device, a tool of communication in a world where direct speech is often considered crude. She schools you in its silent language. A closed fan held to the lips means I have a secret. If an opened wide and held over the heart signifies deep affection. Tapping a closed fan on your shoulder is a sign of impatience. Dropping the fan is a carefully orchestrated accident, a way to initiate contact with someone. It is an entire vocabulary of flirtation, of intrigue, of polite dismissal, all conducted without a single word. While it is unlikely you'll be attending a poetry contest anytime soon, this training is fundamental. It teaches you to control your body, to be aware of the messages you are constantly sending, to master the art of concealment. And here, historians still puzzle over the exact nuances of this fan language. While it's frequently mentioned in period literature and plays, creating a definitive dictionary of gestures is nearly impossible. The meanings likely shifted with time, location, and social context, making it a frustratingly fluid and secret code that we can now only glimpse. Was it a fully developed language, or more of a loose set of fashionable conventions? The answer is likely lost to time. Your lesson is interrupted by the arrival of a seamstress. She brings with her a special garment, one you have never worn before. It is a set of pristine white underrobes, Your mother dismisses the seamstress and holds the garment up for you to see. Should the worst come to pass, she says, her voice dropping to a near whisper, and you are called upon to perform your final duty, you must be prepared. Your body must be pure. You will wear this. She explains the grim ritual with a chilling, practical calm. The small dagger, the taekium, is not enough to ensure a clean death, one that does not leave the body in a state of dishonor. You are to tie your knees together with a silk cord before making the final cut. This prevents the body from falling in an unseemly position. It is a detail of shocking pragmatism, purity and presentation, even in the final, violent moments of life. You stare at the white silk. It is the color of death, of surrender, of ghosts. It is the opposite of the vibrant, colorful world you inhabit. This, too, is part of your armor, the knowledge of how to die correctly. Later that day, you are walking down one of the long, covered corridors that connect the various buildings of the compound. You see a group of your father's samurai, his personal guard, gathered in a small courtyard. They are not training. They are methodically checking the lacquer plates of their armor, relacing the silk cords that hold it together, and sharpening their swords on whetstones. The rhythmic shing, shing of steel on stone is a sound that cuts through the air, a sound far more honest and direct than the silent, coded messages of the fan. You pass by them, your head held high, your expression serene, just as your mother instructed. You are a rock, a perfect, polished stone in a carefully arranged garden, but you know that rocks can be shattered. You are dressed in layers of silk, trained in the art of the perfect gesture, armed with the knowledge of a perfect death. But as you hear the sound of the sharpening steel, a cold, simple thought cuts through all the layers of ritual and decorum. None of this silk will stop a blade. The reply from Lord Endo arrives not as a letter carried by a messenger, but as a single arrow. It is fired in the dead of night, arcing high over the castle walls, its shaft trailing a thin, whistling cord. It thuds into the wooden gate of the main keep, a stark, violent punctuation mark in the suffocating silence. The message is clear. Negotiations are over. By dawn, the entire compound is awake, and a new energy crackles in the air. The low hum of tension has become a palpable, electric current. The performance of peace is officially finished. You watch from a high window as the main gates are barred, and heavy timbers are dropped into place to reinforce them. Archers in simple, functional armor are taking their positions on the ramparts, their longbows leaning against the stone, quivers of arrows placed within easy reach. The sounds have changed. The gentle chirp of the nightingale floors is now lost beneath the tramp of armored feet, the creak of winches hoisting supplies, and the shouted commands of your father's captains. Your father emerges into the central courtyard. He is no longer the refined lord in silk robes who presided over the Blossom Festival. He is wearing his full armor. The Jumao, a complex construction of lacquered metal plates, leather, and silk cords in the clan's colors of deep blue and gold. On his head is a fearsome helmet, adorned with a crest shaped like a swooping hawk. He looks larger than life, an inhuman figure of war. He moves with a purpose you have rarely seen, his voice sharp and clear as he issues orders. You see your brothers there, too, looking young and ill at ease in their own armor. A captain is adjusting the straps on your younger brother's shoulder plates, and you see the boys' nervous swallow. They are trying to project an image of the stoic warriors they were raised to be, but you can see the fear behind the facade. This is the moment the clan has been preparing for, and yet there is a strange sense of unreality to it all. War had been a story, a subject for epic poems and historical scrolls. It was the glorious business of your ancestors. No, it is here. It is the smell of smoke from the blacksmith's forges working overtime, the taste of dust in the air. In the late morning, a scout returns, his horse lathered in sweat, its breath coming in ragged clouds. He kneels before your father, gasping out his report. A great army is on the move. Banners bearing the crest of Lord Endor Coiled Serpent have been spotted on the main road, no more than half a day's march away. The scout describes a long column of foot soldiers, archers, and mounted samurai. They are not a raiding party. This is an invasion force. Lord Endor is not coming for plunder. He is coming for everything. Panic is a wildfire, and your mother's words from yesterday echo in your mind. You must be a raw. You are sent to the women's quarters to help organize the final preparations. Your role now is logistical. You oversee the rolling of bandages, the stockpiling of water, and the preparation of food that can be eaten quickly uncold, mostly rice balls, salted fish, and pickled vegetables. The work is methodical and keeps your hands busy, but it doesn't quiet your mind. The women around you react in different ways. The older ladies, who remember tales of the last great wars from their grandmothers, are grim and silent, their faces set like stone. The younger serving girls are terrified, whispering amongst themselves, their eyes wide. You move between them, offering a quiet word of encouragement, or steadying hand, projecting the calm you do not feel. There is a strange, almost absurd detail in the preparations. A special reserve of the finest, most expensive incense is brought out. It is to be burned throughout the siege. This isn't for religious purposes. It is a matter of aristocratic pride, even in battle, even in death. The castle of a great lord must not smell of sweat and fear. It must be perfumed, a fragrant testament to the clan's refinement to the very end. This practice of scenting the armor in the battlefield is a detail often overlooked, a sign of how deeply aesthetics were woven into the warrior ethos. As the afternoon wears on, I look out on the highest watchtower beats a rapid, frantic rhythm on the great war drum. Dun 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 dun. The sound reverberates through the compound. A frantic heartbeat that you feel in your bones. It is the signal. The enemy is in sight. You rush to a protected alcove on the second floor of the keep, one that offers a narrow, set-like view of the plains beyond the castle walls. You peer out. At first, you see nothing but the green and brown tapestry of the landscape. Then you see it. A dark line on the horizon. It is not a line. It is a river. A river of men, of horses, of banners, flowing steadily towards you. The sunlight glints off thousands of spear points, a field of deadly, glittering stars. At the head of the column, you can just make out a large banner, and even from this distance, you can see the emblem it bears. A coiled, black serpent, waiting to strike. The scale of it is terrifying. It is an anthill, stirred to anger, and your home is the single, solitary stone in its path. You feel a cold knot of dread in your stomach. Your training, your honor, your mother's lessons in composure, all of it feels impossibly small in the face of that advancing tide of steel. The war is no longer a whisper behind a paper screen. It is here, and it has come to swallow your world whole. The sight of the enemy army on the horizon changes everything. The abstract threat has become a physical reality, a creeping tide of banners and spear points. The time for preparation is over. The time for ritual begins. But this is not the gentle, contemplative ritual of the tea ceremony. This is the grim, methodical ritual of the warrior preparing to face death. You do not go to the armory. Your armor is kept in your own quarters, stored in a large, black-lacquered box, its pieces resting on silk lining. It is your own, custom-made, made to the demands, designed for agility rather than brute strength. A servant helps you, her hands trembling slightly. You, however, are calm. A strange, cold clarity has settled over you. The fear is still there, a frozen core in the pit of your stomach, but it is encased in a thick layer of duty. There is a task to be done, a sequence of actions to be performed, and in this familiar process, there is a strange comfort. You begin with the undergarments, simple cotton loincloth and a thin tunic. Then come the greaves that protect your shins, followed by the armored sleeves, a combination of fabric and chainmail with small metal plates protecting the forearms. Each piece is tied into place with a series of complex knots. Every warrior has their own specific way of tying these cords, a personal touch that is believed to bring good luck. Some historians argue this was purely practical, ensuring a snug fit, while others believe it was a deeply personal, almost superstitious rite, a way of asserting individuality before surrendering to the chaos of battle. The servant brings the main part of the armor, the chest protector. Unlike the boxy cuirass of the men, yours is molded to your form, cinching at the waist and allowing for more freedom of movement. It is made of small, individual scales of lacquered leather or kosane, laced together with blue silk cords. They are light, flexible, and surprisingly strong. As the servant ties the final cords at your back, you feel the familiar, reassuring weight settle on your shoulders. It is a physical reminder of your identity, of your purpose. Then comes a peculiar, and often debated, part of the process. The servant hands you a small porcelain pot. It contains makeup, not the elaborate white powder and red lipstick of the court, but a simpler, more dramatic application. You apply a touch of reed beneath your eyes and at the corners of your mouth. This practice, some sources claim, was to make you look more fierce and lifelike, even in the throes of battle. Others suggested darker, more practical reason. Should you be wounded, the red makeup would help to mask the pallor of fear and blood loss, allowing you to maintain an illusion of strength to both ally and enemy. It's a small, poignant act of vanity in the face of annihilation. Finally, you reach for your weapons. Your naginata rests against the wall, its blade polished to a mirror shine, the oak shaft smooth and familiar in your hands. You practice a few slow, deliberate movements, reacquainting yourself with its balance and weight. The sweeping arcs feel as natural as breathing. You slide your small dagger, the kayakun, into the sash of your armor. The cold weight of it against your side is a constant, grim reminder of your final option. You are ready. You look at your reflection in the polished bronze mirror. The doll-like figure from the festival is gone. In her place is a stranger, a woman encased in leather and steel. Her face a mask of composed lethality. The red makeup gives your expression a fierce, almost predatory quality. You are no longer just the daughter of the daimyo. You are an Onna-Bugeisha, a woman warrior of the samurai class. You are a part of the castle's living defense. Your body is a weapon. Your soul is the fortress. You leave your quarters and walk the corridors of the keep. The nightingale floors no longer sing. Their delicate chirps are silenced by the urgency of the moment and the heavy tread of your armored sandals. You see other warriors, men of your father's retinue, making their own final preparations. One is silently mouthing a Buddhist prayer, another is sharing a final cup of sake with a friend. A shared moment of bravado against the coming darkness. You find your assigned position. It is on a wooden balcony overlooking the main gate, a critical choke point. With you are a half-dozen other women, cousins and the wives of high-ranking samurai, all dressed in similar armor, all armed with the naginata. Their faces are pale but determined. An older woman, a distant aunt who is renowned for her skill in battle, is in command. She gives you all a sharp, appraising look. Do not let them see the whites of your eyes until they are at the top of the ladders. She says, her voice raspy but clear, aim for the throat or the knees. A wounded man screams. A screaming man creates more fear than a dead one. Do not waste your energy. Make every strike count, and remember who you are. You nod, gripping the shaft of your weapon. You look out over the castle wall. The enemy army has stopped its advance. They are a sea of darkness just beyond the range of your archers. A vast encampment of thousands of soldiers. Campfires are beginning to flicker to life, looking like malevolent red eyes staring at you from the gloom. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and blood red. The air grows cold. The long wait begins, and in the silence, broken only by the wind whistling over the battlements, you sharpen not a blade, but your soul. The night is a long, agonizing vigil. The thousands of enemy campfires burn on the plain, a sprawling city of glowing embers that mock the safety of your walls. The sounds that drift across the dark expanse are alien and terrifying. The distant whinny of a warhorse, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer making field repairs, and sometimes a great roar of laughter from 1,000 enemy throats, a sound designed to fray the nerves of the defenders. Sleep is impossible. You doze in shifts, your back against the cold wood of the keep, the naginata never leaving your hands. Dawn arrives not with a gentle glow, but with a harsh, grey light that reveals the true horror of your situation. The enemy army is stirring. You can see them forming into massive blocks of infantry, the sunlight glinting off a forest of spear points. Great wooden shields are being moved to the front. The air is still, heavy with anticipation. The birds are silent. It feels as if the entire world is holding its breath. Then comes the sound. It starts as a low rumble, a vibration you feel in the soles of your feet. It grows into a deep, guttural roar, the collective war cry of thousands of men. A wave of pure sound that washes over the castle and seems to shake its very foundations. It is an act of psychological warfare. A primal scream meant to shatter your resolve before the first blow is even struck. And then, the first arrow sings. It is a single, high-pitched whistle that cuts through the morning air. It is a signal arrow, trailing a plume of white smoke. And in its wake, the sky darkens. 1,000 archers on the enemy side draw their bows in unison, and the first volley is loosed. It is a black cloud of death, a swarm of angry insects rising into the air, pausing for a moment at the apex of its arc, and then falling with a terrifying, whispering hiss towards the castle. The air around you is filled with the sound of arrows striking home. They thud into the thick wooden gates, clatter uselessly against the stone walls, and embed themselves deep into the wooden structures of the keep. You hear cries of pain from the men on the ramparts, a sound that is shockingly immediate and real. The abstract concept of battle has just become a sharp, brutal reality. Your own archers answer. Your father's master bowman gives the command, a sharp, piercing whistle, and 100 arrows fly from your walls in reply. You watch them arc across the sky, a desperate message sent to the advancing tide. The enemy is moving. The blocks of infantry, shielded by the large wooden barricades they push before them, begin a slow, inexorable march across the open ground. Behind them, men are carrying massive scaling ladders. The war drums on both sides begin to beat, a hypnotic, thundering rhythm that sets the pace for the advance. Boom, boom, boom. It is the heartbeat of the battle, a sound that will be seared into your memory forever. From your vantage point on the balcony, you are, for the moment, a spectator to the carnage. You watch as the enemy soldiers reach the moat that surrounds the castle. They throw bundles of bamboo and earth into the water, creating crude causeways. The archers on your walls rain arrows down upon them, and you see men fall, clutching at their throats and chests, their bodies tumbling into the muddy water. But for every man that falls, 10 more surge forward to take his place. Their numbers seem infinite. This opening phase of a siege was a grim, mathematical equation. Historians and military strategists still debate the precise ratios, but the general consensus is that a well-prepared fortress could hold out against an attacking force 3, or even 5, times its size. Your castle is strong, your men are well-trained, but looking at the endless sea of enemy soldiers, you wonder if any equation can account for such overwhelming numbers. Now a new sound joins the symphony of battle. A low creak and groan, followed by a sharp crack. The enemy has brought siege engines. These are not the complex stone-throwing catapults of Western warfare, but simpler, more portable mungo nails and powerful, oversized crossbows designed to hurl heavy projectiles. A large rock smashes into the roof of a nearby watchtower, sending tiles and splinters of wood flying through the air. The psychological impact is immense. No part of the castle feels entirely safe. The first wave of attackers reaches the base of the walls. The scaling ladders, long and heavy, are heaved upwards. They scrape against the stone, and the hooks at their tops catch on the battlements. This is the signal. Your moment as a spectator is over. The woman in command of your unit lets out a sharp cry. Positions. You grip your naginata, your knuckles right. You move to the edge of the balcony, peering down. The faces of the enemy soldiers are no longer anonymous dots on a field. They are right below you, their faces twisted with effort and fury as they begin their climb. They are real. They are men. And they are coming to kill you, to destroy your home, to erase your world. The psalm of the first arrow is over. Now, the screaming begins. The world shrinks to the size of the wooden balcony and the space immediately beyond it. The grand, terrifying panorama of the battle is gone, replaced by a brutal, intimate reality. The enemy is no longer a distant sight. They are individual men, their grunting breaths and the scrape of their sandals on the ladder rungs shockingly close. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, sear, and the coppery tang of fresh blood. The first enemy soldier's head appears over the edge of the rampart below you. His face is smeared with dirt, his eyes wide with a mixture of hope and savagery. He pulls himself up, one hand gripping the stone, the other holding a short spear. Before he can even find his footing, one of your father's samurai is there, a flash of steel from his katana, and the man's story ends. He falls backward without a sound, a puppet with its strings cut. But another takes his place, and another, and another. The ladders are a vertical conveyor belt of death, delivering fresh attackers to the wall. The samurai below you are a whirlwind of controlled violence, but they are outnumbered. Then, a ladder slams against the edge of your own balcony. The impact shatters through the floorboards. A metal hook bites into the wood. The time for waiting is over. Now, your commander shrieks, her voice cutting through the din. You move to the edge, your naginata held in a low guard. The first man to climb the ladder is young, his face taut with exertion, as his helmet clears the floor of the balcony. You don't hesitate. You don't think. You act. Your body moving with the muscle memory of 1,000 training sessions. You thrust the butt end of your weapon, not the blade, directly into his face. The impact is a sickening crunch of cartilage and bone. He cries out, his hands flying to his ruined nose, and he peels away from the ladder, a falling, screaming weight. Aim for the knees. Your commander shouts, her own naginata sweeping an attacker clean off a neighboring ladder. Make them take their friends down with them. You see the wisdom in her command. A clean kill is quick. A disabling blow causes chaos. The next man is almost at the top. You change your grip and swing the naginata in a low, powerful alert. The curved blade connects with his legs just below the knee. It doesn't cut clean through the armor, but the force is immense. You hear a sharp crack, and the man shrieks. A high, piercing sound of pure agony. He loses his grip, his body twisting as he falls, and he collides with the man climbing below him. Both of them tumble from the ladder, a tangled, screaming mess that crashes into the soldiers waiting at the base. This is your dance. A grotesque parody of the elegant kata from the dojo. A step forward, a thrust, a spin, a sweep. You are not a single warrior. You are part of a machine, a small unit of women working in brutal, efficient harmony. You use the length of your weapons to your advantage, keeping the enemy at a distance, preventing them from gaining a foothold on the balcony. You become a whirlwind of polished oak and gleaming steel, a deadly arc of denial. And in the midst of this chaos, a strange, quiet thought surfaces. All those hours spent learning the perfect way to hold a tea bowl, the precise angle to arrange a flower, they were not a waste. They were training. They taught you focus, economy of motion, and a profound awareness of the space around you. The tranquility of the tea ceremony and the violence of the battlefield, you realize, are just two different applications of the same sharpened mind. This is a philosophical connection that scholars of Zen and Bushido would debate for centuries. But for you, in this moment, it is a simple, visceral truth. The fighting is relentless. For every man you push back, another scrambles up the ladder. Your arms begin to burn with fatigue. Your breath comes in ragged gasps. A spearhead scrapes along the shaft of your naginata. The screech of metal on metal jarring your teeth. An arrow whistles past your ear. So close you feel the stir of the air on your cheek. You see one of the younger women in your unit freeze. A burly, helmetless soldier with a terrifying scar across his face has managed to heave himself onto the balcony. He raises a short, heavy sword. The girl just stands there, her eyes wide with terror. Her naginata held loosely in her hands. Before you can even move, your commander is there. Her own weapon is tangled with another opponent, so she does something unexpected. She drops her naginata, draws the small K-Akin from her sash, and lunges forward, under the man's sword arm. It is a single, brutal, efficient movement. The dagger goes in deep, just under his ribs. The man's eyes go wide with surprise, a soft toe escaping his lips. He slumps to the floor. Your commander retrieves her dagger, wipes it on the dead man's tunic, and turns to the terrified girl. Fight or die, she snarls, her face a mask of fury. There is no other choice. The girl, shocked back into action, lets out a choked sob and raises her weapon again. The battle rages on. The sun climbs higher in the sky, beating down on the castle, turning your armor into an oven. Time loses all meaning. There is only the next man on the ladder, the next swing of your weapon, the next ragged breath. This is your world now, a dance of red and steel on a 3-foot wide balcony, with the whole world falling apart just beyond it. Hours bleed into one another. The relentless rhythm of attack and defense becomes a grueling, hypnotic trance. Your body moves on autopilot, a machine of parries and thrusts fueled by a dwindling reserve of adrenaline and sheer will. The sun crawls across the sky, a merciless, indifferent eye. The initial shock and terror have been burned away, leaving behind a core of numb exhaustion. The balcony floor is slick with blood and littered with discarded weapons and broken arrows. The intensity of the attacks begins to wane. You notice longer pauses between the attempts to scale your position. The shouting from below seems less organized, more sporadic. Looking down, you see the ground at the base of the wall is a horrific carpet of the dead and wounded. The enemy is pulling back, dragging their injured with them, leaving the bodies of the fallen where they lie. A temporary lull settles over your section of the wall. It is not peace. It is a collective, gasping breath in the middle of a drowning. You use the moment to take stock. Your arms feel like lead. A deep, throbbing ache has settled in your shoulders. There is a shallow cut on your cheek where a splinter of wood from the railing flew up and caught you. A thin line of blood you hadn't even noticed. You take a sip of water from a skin passed around by a servant boy. The lukewarm liquid, the most precious thing you have ever tasted. You look at the other women. Their faces are smeared with grime and sweat, their hair escaping from beneath their helmets in wild strands. But their eyes hold a new light, the hard, grim pride of survival. They have met the monster, and they are still standing. But the battle is not over. It has just changed character. The main infantry assault has been repulsed for now. But the enemy archers are repositioning, and the siege engines renew their bombardment with a vengeance. A great, coordinated roar goes up from the enemy lines, and you see them dragging something huge forward. It is a massive battering ram, a whole tree trunk kept with iron, suspended from a wheeled wooden frame and protected by a thick roof of wet animal hides to ward off fire arrows. Its target is obvious, the main gate. You watch, helpless, as it begins its slow, ponderous journey across the field. Your archers rain arrows upon it, but they glance harmlessly off its protective shell. The men pushing it are almost completely shielded. It is a slow, creeping beast of wood and iron, and every step it takes is another nail in your castle's coffin. BOOM. The first impact of the ram against the main gate is a sound that is felt more than heard. A deep, resonant shockwave that travels through the stone and wood of the entire fortress. BOOM. Again, the heavy timbers of the gate, reinforced with iron, hold strong. But the sound is a death knell. BOOM. It is a patient, relentless percussion, chipping away not just at the wood, but at the morale of every person inside the walls. Suddenly, a new sound cuts through the air, high and triumphant. It's a trumpet blast, coming not from the enemy, but from within the castle itself. You see a flurry of motion in the main courtyard. The side gate, a smaller, reinforced door, is thrown open, and a column of mounted samurai, with your father at their head, charges out. It is a desperate, glorious, and suicidal act. A cavalry charge to break the siege, to attack the men at the battering ram. Your father's personal banner, the golden hawk on a field of blue, snaps in the wind. You watch, your heart in your throat, as they gallop across the narrow stone bridge over the moat and crash into the flank of the enemy soldiers. The disciplined enemy lines break in confusion, not expecting an attack from within. For a moment, it seems to be working. Your father is a whirlwind of destruction. His katana is silver blue, cutting down men left and right. But the enemy's numbers are too great. The initial shock of the charge fades, and the vast sea of enemy infantry swarms around the small island of your clan's cavalry. It becomes a chaotic melee of kicking horses and flashing swords. You watch in horror as one of your cousins is pulled from his horse and disappears under a wave of spearmen. Another horse goes down, screaming, and then you see it. Your father, his helmet's hot crest making him an unmistakable target, is surrounded. He fights like a demon, his skill and fury a thing of terrible beauty, but a spearman lunges, not at him, but at his horse. The noble animal screams and collapses, trapping your father's leg beneath it. He is on the ground, struggling, and the enemy's soldiers close in. From your high vantage point, you see another banner push through the chaos, the banner of the Coiled Serpent, Lord Ender's personal standard. An enemy samurai in ornate, black-lacquered armor dismounts and approaches your trapped father. There is a brief, brutal exchange of words you cannot hear, a final act of defiance. Then, the black-armored samurai raises his sword. Time seems to slow down. You see your father's banner, the golden hawk, begin to lean. A soldier has cut the ropes holding it to the keep's watchtower. It waves for a moment, like a great, wounded bird, and then it falls. It tumbles down the stone face of the wall, the proud emblem of your family, your history, your entire world, disappearing into the chaos and filth of the battle below. The fall of the banner is a physical blow. A collective gasp goes through the defenders on the wall. It is the ultimate symbol. The sun has fallen from the sky. The heart of the clan has been ripped out. The battle might continue for a few more hours, fueled by desperation and rage, but the war is over. You have lost. The fall of the banner is not a sound. It is a silence. The roar of battle, the crash of steel, the screams of the dying, it all seems to recede, replaced by a deafening, internal quiet. The collective will of the castle's defenders breaks. The invisible threads of morale, discipline, and hope that held you all together have been severed. A man on the wall near you, a veteran samurai with a grizzled beard, simply lowers his sword. He stares blankly at the chaos below, his face a mask of utter despair. The fight has gone out of him. The soul of the castle is dead. Only the body remains, twitching in its final moments. Your commander, the old, fierce woman, grabs you by the shoulder, her grip like iron. Her face is grim, her lips are thin, hard-like. It's over, she says, her voice a low rasp, barely audible over the growing roar of fires catching in the wooden keep. The castle is lost. She looks you directly in the eyes. You expect her next words to be about honor, about the final duty, about the small, cold blade tucked in your sash. It is what you have been trained for your entire life. This is the moment when a woman of your class is expected to find a quiet corner, tie her knees together, and draw the cake in across her throat. Forget your honor. She snarls, and the words are so shocking they jolt you out of your stupor. Honor is a story for the victors. The dead have no stories. Live, get out, disappear. That is your final order. This command is a profound betrayal of the code you were raised to venerate, and a subject of intense debate among historians. Was the expectation of ritual suicide for women an absolute, or was it an ideal, a piece of political propaganda? Did women, faced with the brutal reality of defeat, cling to this code, or did the primal instinct to survive often win out? In this moment, your commander gives you a brutal, pragmatic answer. Survival is its own form of defiance. She gives you a hard shove towards the inner keep. Go, now, burn your armor, wear rags, become a ghost. The retreat from the wall is a nightmare. You move through corridors that were once a symbol of order and grace, now choked with smoke and the bodies of people you knew. You pass a servant girl, no older than your youngest brother, lying in a pool of blood, her eyes open and staring at a ceiling she can no longer see. The beautiful painted screens depicting serene landscapes are torn and spattered with reed. The air is scorching hot, and the crackle of burning timber is everywhere, punctuated by the terrible, loud groans of the wounded. You move through the compound, a phantom in your own home. Every corner holds a memory. Here is the courtyard where you watched the Blossom Festival, now littered with corpses and the smoking embers of the lanterns. Here is the dojo where you trained, its roof caved in, a stray enemy banner with its coiled serpent sigil planted defiantly in the center of the floor. You are walking through the ruins of your own memory. The smell is overwhelming. It is not just the clean, woody smell of a bonfire. It is the acrid stench of burning lacquer, of roasting silk, of smoldering plaster. The walls of the keep, a common building technique of the time, were made of a mixture of mud, clay, and rice straw packed into a bamboo lattice. As they burn, they release a thick, gagging smoke that smells like the world itself is being turned to ash. It is the specific, unique perfume of your life's end. You finally reach your own chambers. The delicate shoji screen has been kicked in, the paper torn to shreds. The room has been ransacked. Your lacquered boxes are overturned, their contents strewn across the tatami mats, silk kimonos, poems you painstakingly copied. A delicate fruit your father gave you, all of it, is trampled into the filth on the floor by the muddy sandals of enemy looters. The only thing they haven't touched is the small stone holding the pristine white death robes. They sit there, an island of untouched purity in a sea of violation. For a moment, you hesitate. You look at the white robes. You touch the handle of the cake at your waist. The path of honor is clear, simple, and final. It is the end of pain, the end of fear. It is the story you were born to complete. But then you hear your commander's voice in your head. Live. To die here is to obey the rules of the world that has just been destroyed. To live is to defy it. It is a harder path, a dirtier path, the path without glory or honor. It is the path of a ghost. With frantic, clumsy fingers, you begin to undo the cords of your armor. The breastplate, which felt like a second skin, now feels like a cage. You let it fall to the floor with a heavy thud. The greaves, the armored sleeves, you shed it all, piece by piece, until you are standing in just your thin underrobe. You are no longer a warrior. You are just a woman in a burning room. You kick the armor into a corner where the flames are already licking up the wall, hoping the fire will consume it, and with it, your identity. You snatch the caressed, darkest servant's robe you can find, putting it on over your own. It smells of smoke and fear. It is your new skin. You take one last look at the room, at the ruin of your childhood. Then you turn and slip out, not through the main corridor, but through a small service passage used by the maids. A ghost, leaving a ghost house behind. The fire roars, consuming your name, your family, your past. Ahead of you is only darkness and the commander's final, terrible order. Live. You move through the guts of the castle, in the narrow, dark passageways hidden behind the grander rooms. These are the arteries of the servant class, designed to be unseen, and now they are your only path to survival. The air is thick with smoke, and you tie a piece of torn cloth over your mouth and nose, your eyes stinging. Every breath a searing pain. The sounds of the battle have changed again. The organized clash of steel is gone, replaced by the splintering of wood as doors are kicked in, the triumphant shouts of the victors, and the sporadic, pleading screams of the vanquished. The sack of the castle has begun. You find a small, spiral stone staircase, one you never knew existed. It leads down, deep into the foundations of the keep. The air grows cooler, damper, the smell of smoke replaced by the scent of wet earth and mildew. You emerge into a large, dark storeroom, filled with huge clay pots of rice, dried fish, and pickles. A single, high window, no more than a slit in the stone, offers a sliver of the outside world. It is here that you wait. You huddle behind a row of massive rice barrels, making yourself as small as possible. You are not alone. A handful of other survivors have found their way here. A kitchen boy, his face white with terror. An old seamstress, who was silently weeping into her sleeves. And one of the younger ladies in waiting, her fine silk kimono torn and smeared with soot. She is in a state of shock, her eyes wide and unseeing. The five of you are a small, pathetic knot of ghosts, listening to the sounds of your world being torn apart above you. Time ceases to exist. There is only the long, terrifying darkness of the storeroom, punctuated by the noises from above. You hear heavy, armored footsteps clattering on the floorboards directly over your head. You hear a crash of pottery, followed by coarse laughter. They are looting. You hold your breath, praying they do not think to search the cellars. The hours crawl by. The sounds from above gradually fade, replaced by the steady, hungry roar of the fire. The heat begins to seep through the stone floor, and a thin tendril of smoke makes its way through the cracks in the ceiling. The storeroom is no longer a sanctuary. It is threatening to become a tomb. The kitchen boy, braver than the rest of you, creeps to the narrow window and peers out. It's night, he whispers, his voice trembling. The fire, it's mostly in the main tower now. The soldiers, they're in the courtyard. Drinking. This is your chance. Your only chance. The chaos of victory, the drunkenness of the soldiers, might provide the cover you need. To stay here is to risk being burned alive or discovered in the morning. To leave is to walk into the lion's den. You decide to leave. You move as a small, silent group, creeping up the stone stairs and back into the smoking ruin of the castle. The main keep is now a colossal torch, a pillar of fire reaching for the night sky, casting a dancing, hellish orange light over everything. The heat is intense, even from a distance. The courtyard is just as the boy described. Enemy soldiers are sprawled everywhere, passing around sake flasks looted from your father's storerooms. Their laughter loud and ugly. Their armor is loosened, their weapons cast aside. They are celebrating their victory on the graves of your family. You must get to the outer wall, and then beyond, but not through the main gate. That is heavily guarded. You remember a small postern gate, a celly port on the western wall, used for taking out the trash and for allowing merchants to make deliveries without coming through the main entrance. It is small, easily overlooked. It is your only hope. The journey across the compound is the most terrifying walk of your life. You stick to the deepest shadows, moving from one burned-out husk of a building to another. You flatten yourself against a wall as a pair of drunken soldiers stumbles past, their arms around each other's shoulders, singing a bawdy song. They are so close you can smell the stale sake on their breath. They don't see you. Your drab servant's robe, your soot-stained face, you are invisible. You are nothing. You finally reach the western wall. The small wooden gate is there, Just as you remembered, it's barred from the inside with a simple wooden plank. The kitchen boy, using all his strength, manages to lift it. The gate creaks open, a sound that seems as loud as a thunderclap in the relative quiet. You all freeze, listening, but no one comes. The victors are too busy with their spoils. You slip through the gate, one by one, and then you are outside. You are standing in the cool night air. The burning castle behind you, the dark, open country before you. You are free. And you are utterly, completely ruined. You have no name. You have no family. You have no home. The clothes on your back are coarse and unfamiliar. You have no money, no food. The skills you possess, the art of the tea ceremony, the mastery of the naginata are now worse than useless. They are dangerous secrets that could get you killed. You have been stripped of everything that made you who you were. The rising sun, which you can just see beginning to tinge the eastern sky with a faint, bruised purple, is not a symbol of hope. It is the unwanted dawn of a life you never asked for, a life for which you have no preparation. You have escaped the fire, but you have stepped into the void. The morning light is a cruel accusation. It exposes the dirt on your face, the soot in your hair, the ragged tear in the sleeve of your servant's robe. Behind you, your home is a black, skeletal ruin sending a thick plume of greasy smoke into the sky. A funeral pyre visible for miles. Ahead of you lies a world that is suddenly, terrifyingly alien. The small group of survivors that escaped with you falls apart almost immediately. The old seamstress, weeping, says she has a sister in a village to the south and shuffles off in that direction. A hunched, pathetic figure, the kitchen boy, with the unthinking resilience of youth, simply vanishes into the woods, probably hoping to make his way to a larger town. You are left with the young lady in waiting, the one whose mind seems to have shattered. She just stands there, staring at the burning castle, her expression completely blank. You try to speak to her, to urge her to come with you, but she doesn't respond. She's a porcelain doll, and the fall has broken something deep inside. You cannot save her. To stay with her is to be discovered, with a pang of guilt that feels like a physical wound. You leave her there, a silent statue in a field of dew-damp grass. You are alone. The solitude is a crushing weight. Your entire life has been lived within a rigid, complex social structure. You were a daughter, a sister, a student, a warrior. You always knew your place, your duties, your name. Now, you are just a speck of humanity, adrift in a hostile landscape. And your name is the most dangerous thing you possess. You are a member of the ruling family, the daughter of the daimyo. Even in defeat, that name carries weight. The victors, Lord Endo and his clan, will not be secure in their conquest until every last member of your family is eliminated. To speak your name, to even hint at your lineage, would be to sign your own death warrant. There will be bounties. There will be patrols. Every stranger's face is a potential threat. You must erase yourself. It is not just a matter of changing your clothes. It is a matter of changing your very being. You start with the physical. You find a muddy stream and look at your reflection. The face that stares back is a mess of soot and tear tracks. But it is still unmistakably the face of an aristocrat. Your skin is too pale, your features too refined. You scoop up handfuls of mud and scrub it into your face and hands, trying to create the weathered, sun-beaten look of a peasant. It feels like a desecration. Your hair, long and lustrous, was once your pride, painstakingly cared for and styled. Now, it is a liability, another marker of your class. You have no knife to cut it. So you do the next best thing. You pull it from its elegant knot, letting it fall in a messy tangle. You run dirt and leaves through it, deliberately matting it, trying to destroy the silken texture. The hardest part is your posture. Decades of training have given you a straight back, a poised, graceful way of moving. It is ingrained in your very muscles. You try to slump, to hunch your shoulders, to adopt the shuffling, earthbound gait of a laborer. It feels unnatural, a painful contortion. Every step is a conscious effort to betray your own body. And your speech. You have been trained to speak a formal, poetic, and highly nuanced version of the language, filled with honorific s and subtle expressions. To a peasant, you would sound like a creature from another planet. You must learn to be silent. Silence is your shield when you must speak. It must be in short, simple, uncultured phrases. You practice whispering them to yourself. I don't know which way to the road. Thank you. Each simple phrase feels like a betrayal of your education, a dulling of your mind. Historians often refer to this period as the Sengokuji Day, the age of the country at war. It was a time of immense social upheaval, where clan loyalties shifted like sand and the fortunes of great families could be wiped out in a single battle. The phenomenon of the high-born suddenly becoming the low-born was tragically common. Scrolls and chronicles from the time are filled with tales of samurai forced to become farmers, or courtly ladies reduced to beggary. But what those official histories rarely capture is the profound psychological violence of this transformation, the daily, hourly effort of unlearning yourself. You find a rough walking stick, something to lean on, something that makes you look older, more infirm, less of a threat. You pull the ragged hood of your robe over your head, shadow in your face. You are no longer a person. You are a disguised, high-walking apology. You start walking, with no destination in mind other than away. You stay off the main roads, sticking to small footpaths that wind through forests and over hills. Every rustle in the trees makes you jump. Every distant plume of smoke could be a patrol. You are a hunted animal, and your own name is the hunter. You are haunted not by the ghosts of your dead family, but by the ghost of the woman you used to be. And as you walk, a single, devastating thought repeats itself in your mind. You did not die with honor in the castle, but the person you were died there all the same. The one who walks now is someone else, a nameless shadow born from the ashes. Days turn into a week. The sharp, immediate terror of the escape begins to fade, replaced by a dull, grinding misery. The world, which you once observed from the serene, detached height of a castle balcony, is now a brutal, sensory assault. The fine gravel of the path cuts into the thin soles of your sandals. The sun beats down on your head, unfiltered by parasols or covered walkways. The smell of the countryside is not the perfumed, curated scent of a palace garden, but the raw, earthy smell of manure, of rotting vegetation, of life and death in a constant, messy cycle. Your first and most pressing problem is clothing. The servant's robe you escaped in is already falling apart. Its thin fabrics nagged on branches and frayed from constant wear. More importantly, it is the clothing of the castle. Anyone with a sharp eye might recognize the specific weave of the faint, faded dye as belonging to your clan's household, a potential clue to your origin. You need to change your skin again. You come to a small, impoverished village, a cluster of a dozen thatched roof huts huddled around a muddy track. The people here are peasants, farmers. Their faces are leather-edged by the sun, their backs bent from a lifetime of toil in the rice paddies. They watch you as you approach, their eyes filled with a flat, weary suspicion. Outsiders mean trouble. Outsiders are hungry mouths, or worse, agents of some distant lord coming to collect more taxes. You have nothing to trade, nothing to offer. Your hands, though you have tried to soil them, are still too sore. They lack the deep, ingrained callous of a field worker. You are an anomaly, and they know it. In the center of the village is a communal well. An old woman is holding up a bucket of water, her movements slow and pained. You approach her, your eyes downcast, your body hunched in the posture of submission you have been practicing. You don't speak. You simply reach for the rope, your hands covering hers, and begin to pull. The rope is rough, and the weight of the bucket is surprising. It is a different kind of strength than the one required to wield an aginota. This is a slow, enduring strength, born of endless repetition. The old woman watches you, her eyes unreadable. You hold the bucket up and pour the water into her wooden pail. You do this again and again, for her and for the other women who come to the well. You work in silence for over an hour. Your back beginning to ache, the skin on your palms already starting to chafe. You are performing the role of a humble servant, hoping it is convincing. When you are finished, the old woman gives you a short, sharp nod. She gestures for you to follow her to her hut. It is a tiny, dark space, the inside smelling of wood smoke, pickled vegetables, and unwashed bodies. There is a single room with an earthen floor and a fire pit in the center. In a corner is a pile of rags. She points to the pile, then she points to the robe you are wearing, an offer of a trade. You take off the robe, the last physical object connecting you to your old life. Beneath it, you are wearing the thin, white silk undergarment you've had on since the siege began. The old woman's eyes widen for a fraction of a second as she sees the fine quality of the fabric. It is a dangerous mistake. You have revealed a piece of your past. She looks from the silk to your face, and a flicker of something perhaps, or fear crosses her features. She knows you are not what you seem. She quickly hands you a set of peasant's garments. They are made of a coarse, raw-spun hemp, the color of dirt. The fabric is stiff and scratchy against your skin. It feels like wearing a burlap sack. The tunic is patched in several places. The trousers are baggy and stained. This is the clothing of the earth, the uniform of the forgotten. You put them on. The psychological shock is profound. To go from layers of heavy, embroidered silk, a fabric that whispers as you move, to this abrasive, shapeless garment is a brutal, physical manifestation of your fall. You are no longer just disguised as a peasant. You are wearing their very skin. The old woman takes your old robe and the silk undergarment. She will likely burn them. They are too dangerous to keep, a link to a fallen clan that could bring soldiers and trouble to her village. Before you leave, she pushes something into your hand. It is a small, lumpy rice bowl, wrapped in a leaf. It is a gesture of pity, of charity. It is also a dismissal. Take this and go. Do not bring your ghosts here. You bow your head in thanks and leave the hut, stepping back out into the harsh sunlight. You are now fully transformed, mud on fine silk. The clothes are uncomfortable, ill-fitting. The scratchy fabric irritates your skin with every step. But it is the perfect camouflage. No one would look twice at you now. You are just another wanderer, another piece of human debris washed up by the endless wars. The disguise is a success, and it feels like a total and utter defeat. You walk away from the village, chewing the dry, tasteless rice bowl, the rough hemp of your new clothes chafing your skin, a constant, abrasive reminder of how far you have fallen. The rough hemp clothing is more than a disguise. It is a teacher, and its first lesson is about hunger. In your old life, hunger was a concept, not a sensation. It was the elegant, poetic emptiness you might feel before a meticulously prepared meal. Meals were a certainty, appearing at precise times, artworks of texture and flavor. You never once had to consider where your food came from. It simply was. Now hunger is a physical presence, a hollow, aching thing in the pit of your stomach that grows coarse as the day wears on. The single rice bowl from the peasant woman was gone in 3 bites, and that was 2 days ago. Since then, you have eaten nothing. The world, which was once a landscape of potential battlefields and scenic views, has transformed into a desperate catalogue of potential sustenance. You look at plants not for their beauty, but with a frantic questioning. Can I eat this? Will it poison me? You see a bird and wonder if you could possibly catch it. Your refined education is useless here. You can compose a 17-syllable poem about the beauty of a river, but you do not know how to catch the fish swimming in it. This gap between aristocratic and practical knowledge was a chasm in your society. While the samurai class practiced the arts of war and aesthetics, the commoners practiced the far more immediate art of survival. It's a brutal irony that the skills needed to stay alive were considered beneath your notice. You spend a day foraging in the woods, your stomach cramping with emptiness. You find some berries that look familiar, but you hesitate, the fear of poison overriding your hunger. You chew on some young green leaves that turn out to be impossibly bitter, leaving a foul taste in your mouth. Your hunger makes you weak, your thoughts cloudy. The world takes on a slightly unreal, dreamlike quality. Every step is an effort. By the third day without food, you are dizzy and your vision begins to blur at the edges. You stumble out of the woods and onto a dusty road that leads to a small town, larger than the last village, with a bustling marketplace, the smells of food, roasting fish, steaming noodles, sweet rice cakes are an almost unbearable torture. The town is crowded with merchants, travelers, and farmers, and here, you must face the ultimate humiliation. You must beg. The idea is so foreign, so contrary to every principle you have been taught, that it feels like a physical barrier. The samurai code, Bushido, is built on the foundation of self-reliance and honor. To beg is to admit absolute failure, to place yourself at the mercy of others, to become a parasite. Your pride, the last, tattered remnant of your old self, rebels against it. You stand at the edge of the market for what feels like an hour, paralyzed by shame. You watch the other beggars. An old man with a missing leg, a woman with a sleeping baby wrapped in a dirty blanket, a blind monk chanting prayers, a small bowl placed before him. They have all practiced. Weary air to them. This is their profession. For you, it is a cliff you must force yourself to jump off. Finally, the gnawing pain in your stomach overcomes your pride. You find a spot against a dirty wall, away from the main flow of traffic. You pull your hood lower over your face, hoping to become anonymous. You cannot bring yourself to hold out a hand. You simply sit, hunched over, your head bowed, trying to make yourself as small and pathetic as possible. You are making a silent appeal, a performance of destitution. People walk past. They are a river of sandals and hurried footsteps. Most do not even look at you. You are part of the scenery, another piece of human refuse. A group of merchants laughs as they pass, their bellies full, their coin purses heavy. A child points at you, and her mother pulls her away, whispering something. You feel a hot flush of shame that is almost as painful as the hunger. Just as you are about to give up, to crawl away and find a quiet place to let this pathetic new life end, an old woman stops in front of you. She is a farmer, her hands gnawed like tree roots, her face a mask of wrinkles. She looks down at you for a long moment, her expression not of pity, but of a kind of weary recognition. She has seen 1,000 stories like yours. She reaches into her sleeve and pulls out a small, misshapen turnip. It's dirty, clearly one of the less desirable ones from her stock. She doesn't hand it to you. She simply drops it on the ground in front of you, as one might toss a scrap to a dog. Then she shuffles away without a word. You stare at the turnip lying in the dust. It is the most disgusting, and the most beautiful, thing you have ever seen. Your hands tremble as you pick it up. You don't wait to wash it. You rub the dirt off on your sleeve and bite into it. The flesh is woody, fibrous, and barely sweet. It is tough and difficult to chew, and it is the best thing you have ever tasted. The raw, earthy flavor fills your mouth, and the simple act of chewing and swallowing feels like a miracle. You devour the entire thing in a few desperate bites. It is not much, but it is enough. It is a spark of life. It is the fuel to take another step, to survive another day. But the price of this turnip was the last shred of your pride. You have now, truly, hit the bottom. You have become a beggar, and as you sit there, against the dirty wall, the bitter taste of the rot turnip in your mouth, you realize that surviving is not a single, heroic act of escape. It is a long, slow, daily process of swallowing your own shame. The raw turnip was a truce with death, not a victory. It bought you a few more hours of life, a brief reprieve from the gnawing emptiness in your belly. But as you sit against that grimy wall, watching the flow of life in the marketplace, A new kind of clarity emerges from the haze of hunger. You cannot stay here. This town is a temporary stop, not a sanctuary. And as you prepare to move on, you are confronted by a problem you have been avoiding since the escape. Your naginata. You did not bring it with you from the castle. In the chaos and smoke, you had no time, but in the small hours of that first night, you circled back to a pre-arranged rally point, a small, hidden shrine in the woods your father had designated for emergencies. There, a loyal retainer, one of the few who escaped the initial slaughter, had left a small bundle for any survivors of the family. It contained a water skin, a few dried rice cakes, and your weapon. Rescued from the dojo at unimaginable risk, the retainer was gone, likely killed shortly after. But his final act of loyalty now lies with you. The weapon is your only true possession, your last tangible link to the person you were. It is more than wooden steel. It is an extension of your body, a repository of 1,000 hours of training, the silent partner in your deadly dance. To abandon it would feel like abandoning a part of your soul, but to carry it openly is impossible. A peasant woman walking the roads with a high-quality, military-grade polearm would be an immediate death sentence. She would be questioned, tortured, and her identity would inevitably be revealed. The weapon that was once your symbol of status and your to-love defense is now your greatest liability. You leave the town at dusk, melting back into the countryside. You walk until you find a dilapidated, abandoned shed on the edge of a fallow rice paddy. Here, in the deepening gloom, you unwrap the cloth that protects your naginata. The blade gleams, even in the faint moonlight, a shiver of cold, deadly beauty in this broken world. You run a thumb gently over the polished toe of the shaft. This is you. Everything else, the rough clothes, the matted hair, the hunched posture is a lie. This is the truth, and you must bury it. Your solution is born of desperation and a flash of cunning. You will not bury it in the earth. You will bury it in plain sight. You spend the next few hours scavenging. You find a length of old, frayed rope. You gather handfuls of straw from the floor of the shed. You tear a long strip from the hem of your already ragged tunic. The process is a careful, loving desecration. First, you take the strip of cloth and wrap it tightly around the razor-sharp blade, again and again, until the gleaming steel is completely hidden under a dull, lumpy cocoon. Then, you take the straw and begin to bind it around the muffled blade, using the rope to hold it in place. You work meticulously, building up a thick, uneven bundle at the end of the pole. You rough it up, making it look like a crude IBBER for planting seeds, or perhaps a tool for tempering earth. Something agricultural, something unimportant. Then you attack the shaft itself. The polished oak is too perfect, too well made. You find a rough stone and use it to scratch and scar the wood, deliberately marring the smooth finish. You rub dirt and mud into the grain, darkening it, aging it, stripping it of its elegance. This practice of concealing weapons was a hidden art form in your country, while the most famous examples are the swords and chains hidden within the canes of wandering monks or officials. The principle was the same. In a dangerous and violent age, the ability to carry a weapon without advertising it was a crucial survival skill. And here is where historians argue. Was this a common practice? A folk technology of survival for Ronin, merchants, and other vulnerable travelers? Or was it the specialized, almost mythical, trader craft of spies and assassins, the shinobi that would later be mythologized as ninja? The truth is likely somewhere in between. For you, it is not a matter of history or legend. It is a matter of life and death. When you are finished, the transformation is complete. The elegant, lethal weapon, a masterpiece of the armorer's art, is gone. In its place is a rough, ugly stick with a clumsy bundle of straw at one end. It looks like a piece of forgotten farm equipment. It looks like trash. You pick it up. The balance is all wrong now. The weight at the end awkward and unfamiliar. But beneath the disguise, The soul of the weapon is still there. The length is right. The feel of the shaft, though scarred, is still a memory in your hands. It is a lie you can hold, a lie that can still, if mated, become a deadly truth. A few quick cuts of the rope, and the blade would be free. You stand and use it as a walking staff. It is heavy, cumbersome, but it is with you. You have not abandoned your past. You have merely hidden it. You have wrapped your warrior's heart in the straw of a peasant's life. As you step out of the ruined shed and back onto the path, you feel its secret weight in your hand. It is not just the weight of wood and steel. It is the weight of your secret, the weight of your will to survive. It is a quiet, hidden promise that the woman who wielded the blade is not dead. She is just sleeping. With your weapon disguised as a crude farm tool and your belly temporarily full, you develop a new, fragile routine. It is a life of constant motion. You learn that to stay in one place is to invite questions, to attract attention, so you walk. You become a fixture of the dusty highways and forgotten byways, a nameless, shuffling figure always moving towards the horizon. You sleep in abandoned sheds, in the shelter of thick forests, or curled up in the dry ditches by the side of the road. You learn to read the weather in the clouds, to find drinkable water, to identify the least bitter of the edible weeds. You drift from village to village, never staying for more than a day. In each place, you offer your labor in exchange for a meal. You are surprisingly strong, a fact you have to be careful to conceal. You learn to chop wood, to haul water, to mend fences, to turn a grinding stone. Your movements deliberately slow and clumsy, masking the efficient, coiled power of your trained muscles. You work in silence, your head bowed, your face hidden in shadow. You take the offered bowl of thin rice gruel, or the handful of pickled vegetables with a mumbled thanks, and then you move on. One evening, you arrive at a larger village, one prosperous enough to have a small inn that serves travelers. You have no money for a room, but you see they have a large pile of firewood that needs to be split. You offer your services to the innkeeper, a stout, suspicious woman. In exchange for the scraps from her kitchen, she agrees, her eyes appraising you with a mixture of pity and contempt. You spend the next few hours working in the fading light. As you methodically split the logs, you become aware of the conversations around you. The inn's main room opens onto the courtyard where you're working, and the voices of the local farmers, gathered for an evening meal of cheap noodles and steak, drift out. They are talking about the recent battle, about the fall of your castle. Heard they fought like demons, one man says, his voice slurred with drink. But Lord Endo's army was like a tidal wave. 10,000 men, they say. God riddance. Another voice, younger and angrier, spits out. They were for lords, living in their fancy castle while our taxes broke our backs. What did they ever do for us? Quiet. You soul. A third, older voice chide. A new lord just means new taxes. It's the same story, just with a different banner. You keep your back to them. The axe rising and falling in a steady, metronomic rhythm. Every word is a small, sharp stone pelting your memory. To these people, you were not a protector. You were not a symbol of culture and stability. You were a parasite, an obstruction, a distant, glittering machine that consumed their rice and gave nothing back. Their casual, bitter dismissal of your family's destruction is a profound shock. You had always believed you were the guardians of this land, of these people. You now realize they saw you as their cage. As the evening wears on, you finish your work. The innkeeper, true to her word, gives you a bowl of leftover rice and some bits of salted fish. You take it and retreat to the darkest corner of the courtyard to eat. As you do, a new group of men enters the inn. They are not farmers. They are louder, dirtier, and they carry swords. They are a shigaru, common foot soldiers from Lord Endo's army, likely a local patrol or garrison unit. They swagger into the inn, demanding sake. They are the new masters, and they carry themselves with the casual arrogance of victors. You try to make yourself invisible, to melt into the shadows. But one of them, a thick-necked man with a cruel mouth, notices you. He sees the lone woman, dressed in rags, eating scraps in the corner. He sees an easy target for his amusement. He saunters over to you, his friend snickering behind him. "Well, what have we here?" he says, his voice a mocking drawl. A little mouse hiding in the corner. He kicks your bowl, sending the last of your precious rice spilling into the dirt. "Look at me when I'm talking to you," he growls. You slowly raise your head, your eyes downcast, your body trembling. You are performing the role of a terrified peasant woman, but it is not entirely an act. Your heart is pounding. Your hand, resting on your disguised nag and otter beside you, instinctively tightens. The soldier looks at you, a slow, ugly smile spreading across his face, and then he pauses. His smile falters. He is looking at your face, now illuminated by the light from the inn's doorway. He sees the fine line of your jaw, the high cheekbones, the shape of your eyes. Despite the dirt and the matted hair, he sees something that doesn't belong. He sees the ghost of your aristocratic features. "Wait a minute," he says, his voice suddenly sharp with suspicion. "You're no peasant. Your face, it's too fine. Where are you from?" His friends are watching now, their drunken amusement turning to curiosity. The inn has gone quiet. The farmers are silent, not wanting to get involved. You are utterly alone, under the predatory gaze of your clan's murderers. Your disguise has failed. Your own face has betrayed you. The soldier's question hangs in the air, heavy and sharp as a guillotine. Your mind races. Every instinct screams at you to act, to rip the straw from your blade, to rise in a single, fluid motion and silence him before he can raise an alarm. The warrior inside you, so long suppressed, is clawing at the bars of her cage. It would be so easy. His stance is sloppy, his senses dulled by sake. He would be dead before his friends could even draw their swords. But then what? You would have to fight your way out of the inn, out of the village. There would be an alarm, a manhunt. They would know that a high-born woman, a skilled warrior, had survived the castle's fall. They would redouble their search. To reveal your skills now would be to trade a moment of violent satisfaction for a lifetime of being hunted with renewed purpose. So you do the hardest thing you have ever done. You do nothing. You let the warrior recede, and you force the terrified peasant to the surface. You begin to cry, not the silent, dignified tears of a noble woman, but the loud, ugly, gulping sobs of a frightened animal. You shrink into yourself, making your body as small and unthreatening as possible, holding your hands up as if to ward off a blow. Your performance is flawless. The soldier is taken aback. His suspicion wavers. He expected defiance, or a panicked confession. This display of abject terror confuses him. He looks back at his friends, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Suddenly, a new voice cuts through the tension. "Leave her be." The voice is low and gravelly, thick with sake, but it carries an unmistakable authority. It comes from a dark corner of the inn's porch, a spot you hadn't even noticed. A man is sitting there, a solitary figure who had been quietly drinking and observing. As he shifts into the light, you see him properly. He is dressed in a patched, travel-stained kimono, but the quality of the fabric, though faded, is good. Thrust through his sash are two swords, a cotton Onna-Bugeisha. Their scabbards are worn, the wrappings on the hilts frayed, but they are the mark of his class. He is a samurai. Yet he is not one of Lord Endo's men. His hair is unkempt, his face shadowed with a dark stubble. His eyes are the most striking thing about him. They are hollow, haunted, filled with a profound, soul-deep weariness. This is a Ronin, a masterless samurai, a man who has lost his lord, his clan, his purpose. He is a wave without an ocean. The soldier glares at the Ronin. "This is none of your business, wave man." The Ronin takes a slow sip of his sake. He doesn't raise his voice. She's a beggar. You are a soldier. Find someone your own size to bully. There is no anger in his tone, just a flat, exhausted contempt. The soldier bristles at the insult. He is about to retort when one of his friends puts a hand on his arm. Leave it, his friend mutters. He's not worth the trouble. They know the type. A Ronin is a dangerous, unpredictable animal. He has nothing to lose. To provoke him is to invite a messy, pointless death. The soldier hesitates, torn between his pride and his friend's caution. He spits on the ground near your feet. Worthless scum. The both of you, he snarls, and then turns his back, swaggering back into the inn with his friends. The moment of danger has passed. You are still huddled on the ground, your face in your hands, your shoulders shaking with manufactured sobs. You stay like that until you are sure they are not watching. Then, slowly, you gather yourself. You do not look at the Ronin. You do not acknowledge his intervention. To do so would be to create a connection, and connections are a liability. You pick up your disguised staff. Your only thought to get away from this place as quickly as possible. As you turn to leave, the Ronin speaks again, his voice still low and gravelly. That was a good trick. The crying. He is not looking at you, but into his empty say cup. But you held your staff wrong. You phrase. Your back to him. When you were frightened, he continues. Your hand tightened on it. Your thumb was on top. Your knuckles aligned. The grip with a warrior. A peasant would hold it like a stick. You held it like a weapon. You do not turn. You do not speak. The night air feels suddenly, shockingly cold. He saw through the rags, through the dirt, through the act. He saw the warrior you have tried so hard to bury. Don't worry, he says, with a dry, humorless chuckle. Your secret is safe with me. The world has enough ghosts already. It doesn't need ours. He says nothing more. He has given you a warning, and a strange, bitter sort of camaraderie. You are both the same. You are both survivors of a shipwreck, pretending to be ordinary swimmers. Your fine clothes and titles sunk to the bottom of the sea. You see in his hollow eyes a dark, terrifying mirror of your own fate. He is what you could become, a wandering, purposeless ghost, haunted by a past of honor and skill that has no place in the present. Without a word, you turn and walk out of the courtyard, out of the village, and into the deep, welcoming darkness of the road. You do not look back. You are not just fleeing the soldier. You are fleeing the reflection of yourself you saw in the eyes of the Ronin. The encounter with the Ronin leaves a scar on your psyche. His quiet observation, his recognition of the warrior hidden within you, was more terrifying than the soldier's loud aggression. It proved that your disguise, no matter how perfect, was just a fragile shell. The truth of your past was a scent that others of your kind could detect. It forces you to a grim conclusion. You cannot stay on the well-traveled roads. You cannot risk these chance encounters in towns and villages. You must disappear into the true wilderness. You begin to travel through the mountains, a vast, lonely landscape of towering cedar trees, plunging valleys, and rushing, ice-cold streams. This is a different kind of survival. The dangers here are not soldiers and patrols, but the terrain itself. You learn to navigate by the sun and the stars, to find shelter in shallow caves, to move with a stealth that borders on the supernatural. The mountains are a harsh, but honest master. They do not care about your name or your lineage. They care only if you are strong enough to endure. And you are strong. The years of grueling physical training, which you once thought were to prepare you for a single, glorious battle, now serve a far more fundamental purpose. They allow you to climb steep slopes without tiring, to walk for days on end, to carry the weight of your own survival on your shoulders. One evening, sheltering from a driving rain beneath a rocky overhang, you hear a sound that does not belong in the wilderness, the clink of metal and the low murmur of voices. Peering through a curtain of wet leaves, you see them, a small procession, making its way slowly up the mountain path. It is a merchant, judging by the two heavily laden mules, accompanied by 4 hired guards. The guards are a sorry-looking lot, not samurai, but common sales words. Their armor a mismatched collection of leather and metal. Their weapons cheap spears and rusty swords. They look nervous, their eyes constantly scanning the dark, dripping forest. Normally, you would melt away, avoiding all human contact. But you're starving. The mountains offer sustenance. But it is meager grubs, bitter roots, the occasional fish you manage to trap with your bare hands. The merchant's backs promise real food. You follow them from a distance, a shadow moving through the trees, your feet making no sound on the damp earth. You observe. You learn. The merchant is plump and arrogant. The guards are undisciplined, more concerned with keeping the rain off their heads than with watching the trail. They are taking a dangerous shortcut through the mountains to avoid the official toll roads, and their greed has made them vulnerable. As dusk settles, they make camp in a small clearing. They build a large, cracking fire to lodge a beacon in the darkness and begin to cook a meal. The smell of roasting rice and dried fish drifts through the trees, a siren song to your empty stomach. It is this smell that makes your decision. You do not plan to rob them. You are not a bandit. Instead, you will offer them something they clearly need. Protection. You wait until they have eaten, until they are drowsy and their guard is down. Then, you step silently from the trees into the edge of the firelight. You are a shocking apparition, a lone woman in peasant rags, appearing as if from the earth itself. The guards startle, fumbling for their weapons. I mean you no harm, you say. Your voice a low croak from disuse. You hold up your empty hands. You have left your disguised naginata hidden in the trees. To show it would be to reveal too much. What do you want? The merchant demands, his hand protectively on a small, locked chest. You are being followed. You lie, your voice fat and certain. I have been in these mountains for a week. There is a group of bandits, 5 of them, who used this pass. They saw your fire. They are waiting for you to see. Panic flickers in the guard's eyes. The mountains are notorious for harboring outlaws and master, their samurai forced into banditry. Your story is plausible. How do you know this? One of the guards asks, his bravado failing him. I know because they tried to take me yesterday, you say, improvising a story of a desperate escape. I offer you my help. I can keep watch. I know these words. For a share of your food. The merchant and his guards exchange uncertain glances. The idea of hiring a ragged, half-starved woman as a bodyguard is absurd. Yet, your sudden appearance, your unnerving stillness, and the cold certainty in your voice gives them pause. You are not behaving like a frightened beggar. You are behaving like someone in control. The merchant, seeing a cheap way to bolster his pathetic security, finally agrees. 1 night's watch, for a meal, nothing more. The job is a strange, phantom echo of your old life. You are once again a guardian, a protector. You take the first watch. You do not sit by the fire. You melt back into the shadows at the edge of the clearing. Your eyes and ears alert to the subtlest sounds of the forest. The warrior, so long dormant, awakens. It is a relief, like taking a deep breath after being held underwater. Your senses feel sharp, alive. The night is no longer a threat. It is your element. You circle the camp, a silent, sleepless sentinel. In your hand, you hold a heavy branch, a poor substitute for your naginata, but a weapon nonetheless. The hours pass. The rain stops. The moon breaks through the clouds. There are no bandits, of course. The only danger to this camp tonight was your own desperation. In the morning, the merchant, relieved to have survived the night, gives you a generous portion of rice and a piece of salted fish. He is impressed, in his own way. You have sharp eyes, he says, almost as an apology for his earlier suspicion. It is not safe for a woman to travel alone. Where are you headed? I have no destination. You reply, your eyes downcast, the role of the humble wanderer returning. As you part ways, the merchant going down the mountain and you melting back into the trees. The brief reawakening of the warrior leaves a profound and painful ache. For a few hours, you were yourself again. You had a purpose, a duty. The experience reminds you not just of what you've lost, but of what you still are. The hands that accepted a charitable handout of rice are the same hands that can stand a silent, deadly watch through a rain-swept night. The price of that meal was not a few hours of work. The price was remembering, and remembering is the most dangerous thing of all. The mountains provide solitude, but solitude does not provide a future. After weeks of living like a wild animal, a gnawing realization sets in. Survival is not enough. A life of hiding and foraging is a slow death sentence. A gradual erosion of your humanity. You need to rejoin the world, not as a warrior, not as a beggar, but as something else, something invisible. You need to find a place where a lone woman can disappear into the crowd. That place, you decide, is a city. You make your way down from the highlands, following the merchant roads, and eventually find yourself on the outskirts of a bustling port town. The sheer scale of it is overwhelming. After the silence of the mountains, the city is a deafening wave of noise, the shouting of vendors, the hammering of blacksmiths, the rumble of cartwheels on packages, the cries of seagulls. The air is thick with 1,000 new smells. Salted fish from the harbor, spices from distant lands, the stench of open sewers. It is a chaotic, vibrant, and utterly anonymous soup of humanity. It is the perfect hiding place. You spend a few days observing, learning the city's rhythms. You see that the economy of the bottom is built on labor. Strong backs are needed at the docks to hold cargo. Nimble fingers are needed in the weaver's district. But your body is a liability. Your strength would be noticed. Your hands, though careless now, still betray a certain delicacy. You need a role that requires a different kind of skill, a skill that hides in plain sight. You find yourself in the entertainment district, a lively, brightly lit area of theaters, inns, and tea houses. Here, the currency is not strength, but performance. And performance is something you understand. Your entire life was a performance of grace and composure. Perhaps you can find a role here. You approach a small but busy tea house, one that caters not to high-ranking samurai, but to merchants, sailors, and well-to-do artisans. The owner is a harried, middle-aged woman with a sharp eye for business. You offer your services, not as a server, but as a simple cleaner, a kitchen hand, a role that is entirely behind the scenes. The owner, Madame Kiku, looks you over. She sees your ragged clothes, your thinness, but she also sees the straightness of your back, which you cannot fully disguise, and a stillness in your eyes that is unusual for a common vagrant. She is a shrewd judge of character, and she senses a story, but she is wise enough not to ask for it. She needs help. She agrees to a trial. You will work for a bed in the attic and a share of the daily meal. Your new life is a blur of menial, repetitive tasks. You wait before dawn to haul water from the well and start the kitchen fires. You spend your days scrubbing floors, washing endless piles of bowls and sake cups, and chopping vegetables until your hands are raw. It is exhausting, anonymous work. You are surrounded by people, yet you have never been more alone. You speak only when necessary. In short, simple sentences. You keep your head down. You become part of the tea house's machinery. But Madame Kiku is observant. She notices the way you move. Even when scrubbing a floor, there is an economy of motion, a lack of wasted effort. That speaks of deep training. She notices that the vegetables you chop are cut with an unnatural precision. And most of all, she notices your hands. In the evenings, when the tea house is full, she sometimes needs an extra person to help serve the guests. She asks you to help her. The first time you carry a tray of sake into the main room, you are terrified. The room is loud, filled with boisterous, drinking men. You must navigate the crowded space, pouring the warm rice wine into the small ceramic cups. And as you perform the simple act of pouring, your past comes rushing back. The muscle memory is too strong. You hold the flask with a grace you cannot hide. You pour not with the sloshing haste of a common serving girl, but with the steady, controlled precision of a woman trained in the tea ceremony. Your movements are too elegant, too refined. A wealthy merchant, a regular patron, notices Chiko-san. He calls out, "Where did you find this one?" She pours sake as if she were serving the shogun himself. He means it as a compliment, a joke, but to you, it is a screeching alarm. Madame Keiko, ever the diplomat. Laugh it off. She's a quick learner, she says, steering you back toward the kitchen. Later that night, after the last customer has gone, she confronts you. You are alone in the kitchen, the air still warm and smelling of spilled wine. You are no peasant, she says. It is not a question. You brace yourself, your hand instinctively going to where your dagger used to be. Do not be afraid, she says, her voice soft now. The city is full of people who have shed their old skins. I do not care what name you had before. I care only if you can work hard and cause no trouble. She looks at you, a long, appraising gaze. That grace you have, it is wasted on scrubbing floors, but it is dangerous in the front of the house. We must find a way to use it, to disguise it. And so your training begins again. But this time, it is an untraining. Madame Keiko teaches you how to be deliberately clumsy, how to round your shoulders, how to spill a little sake for effect, how to laugh a little too loudly. She is teaching you to build a new character, a new performance. The role is clumsy but charming tea house girl. It is the most difficult thing you have ever had to learn, to consciously unlearn a lifetime of perfection, to take your greatest assets, your grace, your poise, your discipline, and paint over them with a thick, crude layer of awkwardness. You are a warrior, learning to play the fool. Your hands, which were trained to kill with deadly precision, must now learn the art of the painted smile and the calculated stumble. Life in the tea house settles into a strained, bifurcated rhythm. By day, you are the anonymous drudge in the kitchen, your world defined by the scouring of pots and the endless chopping of daikon radishes. By night, you are a performer on a small, chaotic stage, playing the part of a slightly awkward but earnest serving girl named Tama, a simple, common name given to you by Madame Keiko. The name feels like another layer of costume, a sound that has no connection to you. The performance is exhausting. You must constantly monitor your own movements, deliberately injecting a note of clumsiness into a body that craves precision. You force a giggle when a customer tells a crude joke. You feign surprise when a sailor recounts a tall tale. You cultivate a wide-eyed naivety that is the polar opposite of the cold, watchful warrior who still lives and breathes just beneath the surface. This constant act of self-suppression is more tiring than any physical labor. One rainy afternoon, the tea house is quiet. You are tasked with polishing the small, round bronze mirrors that the more affluent patrons use to adjust their appearance. The mirrors of this era are not the perfect, silvered glass of later centuries. They are discs of cast bronze, polished to a high sheen. But their reflections are always a little dark, a little distorted, like looking at your own ghost. You pick one up and begin to rub it with a soft cloth and a fine abrasive powder made from deer antler, a common polishing agent. As you work, a face begins to emerge from the murky depths of the metal. It is your face, yet not your face. It is the face of Tama. The hair is pulled back in a simple, messy bun. There are smudges of flour on one cheek. The expression is one of dull, placid acceptance. You stare at this stranger in the bronze. Where is the daughter of the daimyo? Where is the fierce warrior who stood on the castle walls? You cannot see her. You try to summon her, to straighten your back, to let the old fire of your lineage burn in your eyes. For a moment, she is there, a flicker of defiance, a shadow of the noblewoman in the curve of your lip, but she looks out of place, a ghost trapped in a peasant's skin. You turn the mirror, catching the reflection of the rain-streaked alley behind you. In the distorted, wavering image, you see the bamboo, the wet stones, the grey light. It reminds you of the garden in your old home, a place of serene, cultivated beauty. But this alley is a place of filth and refuse. The reflection is a perfect metaphor for your life, a warped, darkened echo of a beautiful past, now overlaid with the grit and grime of your present reality. This moment of existential crisis is a subtle but powerful theme in many stories from periods of great social upheaval. Characters who have been declassed are often depicted grappling with their own reflection, unable to reconcile the person they were with the person they have been forced to become. Scholars debate whether these are literary tropes or reflections of a genuine psychological trauma experienced by those who lost everything. For you, it is not a debate. It is the simple, sickening truth you see in the murky bronze. Madame Kiku enters the room, her soft footsteps making you jump. You quickly lower the mirror, as if caught doing something shameful. She sees the look on your face, the momentary lapse in your performance. The past is a heavy ghost to carry, she says. Her voice unusually gentle. She sits beside you, picking up another mirror and a cloth. We all have them here, in this city. Every person you serve has a story they don't tell. A failed business, a disgraced family, a lost love. This city is a harbor for ghosts. She begins to polish the mirror, her movements slow and rhythmic. You think you are hiding, she continues, not looking at you. But all you are doing is learning a new way to be. You were a fine piece of porcelain, fired in a lord's kiln. You broke. No. Dear, dear. In the dirt and the heat of this city, you are being reshaped into a teacup. It is not as fine. It is not as beautiful, but it can still hold water. Her words are a strange comfort. They do not deny your loss, but they reframe your survival. It is not just an act of hiding. It is an act of transformation. The person you see in the mirror is not a stranger who has replaced you. She is a new creation, built from the shards of the old one. You look back at the reflection. You see the conflict etched there, the aristocratic bone structure and the peasant's dull expression, the warrior's watchful eyes and the servant's bowed head. You are both. You are the porcelain and the clay. The secret in the water's reflection is not that you are lost, but that you are two people at once, locked in a silent, endless struggle for control. You take a deep breath and go back to your polishing. The face in the mirror becomes murky again under the pressure of the cloth. Maybe that's for the best. Some days, it is easier not to see the ghost at all. You focus on the simple, physical task, the circular motion of your hand, the gradual emergence of a shine on the dark metal. It is the work of a servant. It is the meditation of a warrior. And for now, it is the only life you have. The storyteller's tale cements your status as a ghost. The world believes you are dead, a noble footnote in a half-forgotten war. This knowledge should be liberating, a final, perfect layer of camouflage. But instead, it hollows you out, leaving you with a profound sense of detachment, as if you are watching your own life from a great distance. You are Toma, the tea house girl, the warrior, the daughter of the daimyo, is a character in a story, a person who no longer exists. You pour yourself into your work, finding a strange solace in the endless, mindless repetition of your tasks. The physical exhaustion is a welcome anesthetic for your mind. You scrub, you chop, you curry, you serve. The days blur into a monotonous cycle, marked only by the changing seasons. Summer's oppressive heat gives way to the crisp, cool air of autumn, and then the biting cold of winter. 1 year passes, then another. Your past recedes, becoming less as sharp, open-wound and more dull, chronic ache. You grow adept at your role. The feigned clumsiness becomes second nature. You learn the names of the regular customers, their favorite type of steak, how they like their noodles. You become a familiar, unremarkable part of the tea house furniture. Madame Keto treats you with a quiet, respectful distance. She never asks about your past, and you never offer it. You have a silent, unspoken pact. You are a useful employee. She is a discreet protector. It is a fair exchange. But the body remembers what the mind tries to forget. It happens on a cold winter afternoon. The tea house is quiet, and your main task is to prepare the rice for the evening meal. This involves washing it, a long, meditative process. You sit on a low stool in the chilly back room, your hands plunged into a large wooden tub of icy water filled with raw ice. The initial shock of the cold is intense, but your hands soon grow numb. The task is to swirl the rice, to rub the grains together gently, washing away the powdery starch until the water runs clear. It is a simple, repetitive motion. Swirl, drain, swirl, drain, over and over. Your mind is half empty, lulled by the rhythm of the work. And then, it happens, without conscious thought. Your hands, numb with cold and moving on their own, change their grip on the rice. Your fingers curl, your thumbs press down, your wrists lock into a precise, powerful alignment. It is not the soft, gentle grip for washing rice. It is the perfect, unyielding grip for holding a polar rim in a combat stance. The grip you spent 10 years of your life perfecting. The sensation is so powerful, so immediate. It is like being struck by lightning. For a split second, you are no longer in a cold kitchen in a city. You are in the sun-drenched dojo of your home. The weight of the naginata in your hands, the smell of oiled wooden sweat in the air. You can feel the familiar grain of the oak shaft, the perfect balance of the weapon, the coiled, lethal potential humming within it. The phantom limb of your past has suddenly, vividly, reattached itself. You gasp, pulling your hands from the water as if burned. You stare at them. They are red and raw from the cold, with broken nails and the small nicks and cuts of a kitchen worker. They are the hands of Toma. But for a fleeting, terrifying moment, they were the hands of a killer. You look around the storeroom. Your heart hammering in your chest. Piled in a corner are various tools, brooms, mops, a long bamboo pole for knocking dust from the rafters. Your eyes fix on the bamboo pole. You pick it up. It is too light, too flimsy, the balance all wrong, but it is long. It is a staff. You stand in the narrow space between sacks of rice and barrels of pickled fish, and you begin to move. The movements are slow, hesitant at first, like a language you haven't spoken in years. But then the rust falls away. The muscle memory, buried under years of deliberate suppression, awakens. A low block, a sweeping strike, a spinning parry. You move through the first few sequences of a familiar kata, your body remembering the ancient, deadly dance. The clumsy tea house girl melts away, and the warrior stands in her place, her eyes narrowed, her breath controlled, her entire being focused on the phantom enemy before her. A floorboard creaks in the hallway. You freeze instantly, the bamboo pole held in mid-strike. You are a statue of lethal intent. The spell is broken. You are Toma again, a servant, standing in a storeroom holding a broom handle. The fear that floods you is icy and absolute. What have you done? You quickly put the pole back and plunge your hands back into the tub of rice. Your shoulders hunch, your head bowed, just as Madame Keiko walks in. She looks at you, then at the bamboo pole in the corner, then back at you. Her expression is unreadable. Did she see? You don't know. She says nothing. She simply tells you to hurry with the rice, as the first customers will be arriving soon. Then she turns and leaves. You are left alone with the sound of your own ragged breathing and the icy water stinging your hands. The experience leaves you shaken to the core. You have learned that your past is not a ghost you can outrun. It is a part of your own body. It lives in your hands, in your muscles, in the very fiber of your being. You can bury the weapon. You can bury the name. You can bury the memories. But the hands always remember. The incident in the storeroom changes something within you. It was a crack in the carefully constructed dam of your new identity, and through that crack, the past has begun to seep back in. You are more careful now, more vigilant in your performance as Toma. But you are also haunted by the knowledge of how easily that performance can shatter. The warrior is not dead, merely sleeping. Unheard dreams are becoming restless. Years continue to pass. The city becomes your home, in a way that the castle never was. The castle was a gilded cage, a place of duty and expectation. The city, for all its grime and danger, is a place of anonymity. And in that anonymity, there is a strange kind of freedom. You are no one, and therefore you can be anyone. Your face loses the last of its aristocratic softness, withered by work and time. The story of Toma, the clumsy tea-house girl, acquires the comfortable weight of truth through sheer repetition. Sometimes, you almost believe it yourself. Madame Keiko grows older, her movements slower. She begins to lean on you more, not just for the physical work, but for the running of the tea house. You learn to manage the accounts, to order supplies, to deal with difficult customers. You discover you have a sharp mind for business, a legacy of your education that you can finally use. You become indispensable. You are no longer just a servant. You are the tea house's quiet, steady anchor. One day, Madame Keiko calls you to her small private room at the back of the tea house. She is old and frail, her breath shallow. She tells you that she is leaving the city to live out her final years with her sister in a distant village, and she is leaving the tea house to you. The offer is a seismic shock. You have never thought of the future, only of surviving the present. The idea of owning something, of being responsible for a business and the lives of the other employees, is terrifying. It means putting down roots. It means the end of being a ghost. I have no children, the old woman says, her voice a dry whisper. You have been more loyal and hardworking than any daughter. It is yours. Live a good life, Toma. She uses the name she gave you, the name you have worn for years. It is her final gift, a confirmation of your new identity. She is releasing you from your past by cementing your present. And so, you become the new mistress of the tea house. The transition is seamless. The customers and staff already see you as the one in charge, but for you, the change is profound. You move out of the tiny attic room and into Madame Kiku's old quarters. For the first time since you fled the castle, you have a space that is truly your own. It is small, simple, but it is a sanctuary. In a dusty chest at the back of the room, you find your disguised naginata. You have moved it with you from one hiding place to another over the years. A secret, heavy burden. You unwrap it. The blade, protected by its cloth binding, is still perfect. Its edge unblemished by time. The scarred wooden shaft feels like an old friend in your hands. You do not hide it away again. You find a place for it in your room, leaning in a dark corner behind a screen. It is no longer a liability you must conceal from the world. It is simply a part of your own private history, an artifact from a different life, belonging to a woman who is now officially dead. You find a kind of peace you never thought possible. It is not the serene, elevated peace of the tea ceremony, nor the fierce, ecstatic peace of victory in battle. It is a quiet, humble, and fragile peace, built on a foundation of hard work and anonymity. You are no longer hunted. You are no longer starving. You are no longer a goat. You are a tea house owner in a bustling port city, a survivor. This is where the story should end. A quiet resolution, a life rebuilt from the ashes. But the past is never truly finished with you. It is merely waiting. And one day, years later, you will be standing outside your tea house, watching the world go by. And you will see something that makes the fragile piece of your new life shatter into 1,000 pieces. Years have woven a comfortable cloak of invisibility around you. You are now a woman entering middle age. Your features settled into a mask of calm competence. You are the respected proprietor of a modest but successful tea house, known for your quiet efficiency and the quality of your noodles. The name Chama is no longer a costume. It is your skin. The fierce, high-born girl who fought on the castle walls is a distant memory, a character from a story someone else told. The city's relentless, noisy present has all but deafened the whispers of the past. It is a fine spring afternoon, the air soft with the promise of cherry blossoms. A commotion down the street draws your attention. It is a procession, a common enough sight in the city. But this one is different. It is not a religious festival or a merchant's guild parade. This is a display of power. At the head of the procession are dozens of foot soldiers, their armor new and gleaming, their movements crisp and disciplined. Behind them, on a magnificent black horse, rides a samurai in a fine silk kimono, his two swords thrust prominently through his belt. He is not old, but he is no longer young. His face settled into the arrogant, self-satisfied lines of a man long accustomed to power. Behind him ride more samurai, his personal retinue, their faces stern and proud. And on the banners they carry, flapping in the gentle breeze, is the crest, a coiled black serpent. It is the crest of Lord Endo. Your blood turns to ice water in your veins. It is a visceral, physical reaction that bypasses thought. Your breath catches in your throat. Your hands, which were calmly wiping down a table, clench into fists. The world narrows to that man on the horse. He is older, heavier, but you recognize him. It is Endo's eldest son. The man who led the finalists out on your castle. The man whose sword-like is struck the final blow against your father. He is now the lord of your old province, and he is here in the city on some political visit. He is the architect of your ruin, the murder of your family, and he is riding past your tea house, not 50 feet away, basking in the afternoon sun. The warrior you thought was buried forever awakens with a volcanic, silent roar. Every instinct, every fiber of your being, screams for vengeance. Your mind, sharpened by years of discipline, becomes a machine of cold calculation. You see the gaps in his security. You see the arrogance in his posture. You know, with an absolute and terrifying certainty, that you could kill him. You could walk back into your room. You could unwrap the blade of your naginata. You could wait for his procession to return at dusk, when the streets are more crowded, the light is fading. You could step out of an alley, a forgotten peasant woman, and in 3 swift, perfect movements, you could end his life. You could avenge your father, your brothers, your clan. You could reclaim the honor that was stolen from you. The story that the storyteller got wrong, the tale of the fierce warrior daughter, you could make it true. You can feel the ghost of the naginata in your hands, the familiar weight, the perfect balance. The world around you fades. The chatter of the street, the smell of the sea, it all disappears. There is only you, the hunter, and him, the prey. It is the moment your entire life, both the one you lost and the one you built, has been leading to. A perfect, terrible collision of past and present. You watch him ride by, his face impassive. He does not even glance at your tea house. Why would he? It is nothing. You are nothing. A speck of dust on the road beneath his horse's hooves. He passes, and the procession continues down the street, a river of silk and steel. And you do nothing. You stand there, frozen, on the threshold of your tea house. The rage, the bloodlust, the consuming need for vengeance, it is all there. A white-hot fire in your soul. But another feeling, older and heavier, holds it in check. You look around you. You see the faces of your employees, the young girls who depend on you for their livelihood. You see the familiar tables and benches of the business you built from nothing. You hear the sizzle of food from your kitchen. This is your life. It is not a grand life. It is not an honorable life, by the standards of the world you lost, but it is a life. To kill him would be to burn this world down, just as he burned down your old one. You would be caught. You would be executed. Your story would end in a brief, bloody flash of violence. Your vengeance would be a footnote in his clan's history. And for what? For a ghost. For a name that no one remembers. For an honor that only you still carry. The decision is not a fault. It is a letting go. It is the loosening of a fist you didn't even realize you had been clenching for 20 years. You let the warrior recede, back into her slumber. You let the rage cool, from a fire into embers. It is the hardest battle you have ever fought. A silent war waged in the space of a single heartbeat, and the victory is in the quiet, heartbreaking act of choosing to live. You turn and walk back into your tea house, leaving the procession and its ghosts to continue down the street. You pick up your cross and begin wiping the table again. The movement is simple, steady, mundane. You are Tama, the owner of a tea house, and as you watch the last of the serpent banners disappear from view, you are, for the first time, truly, completely, and irrevocably free. And so, your journey finds its quiet harbor, not in the glorious blaze of a warrior's death, but in the gentle, steady rhythm of an ordinary life. The ghosts of the past are not vanquished. They are simply invited to sit at the table, to become a quiet part of the scenery. The world you inhabit now is not the one you were born for, but it is the one you have made, with your own hands, through your own will. In the soft, fading light of this story, you might begin to feel that gentle pull, the transition from the world of narrative into the deeper, quieter world of your own rest. The edges of this tale can begin to soften now, its sharp details blurring into the comfortable darkness behind your eyes. There is nothing left to hold on to, nothing left to follow, only the feeling of release. As the current of the story gently places you on the shores of sleep, the tea house fades into a warm, pleasant memory. The sounds of the city become a distant, soothing hum, and you are left in this peaceful, silent space, a space between waking and dreaming, where all that is required is to simply be, to simply rest. The final word has been whispered. If your mind is still gently stirring, you're welcome to drift into another of my stories. If not, I wish you a deep and peaceful slumber. Good night.